Hello, everybody. We are back on this week's show. Ben and Justin join us to catch up on the UK Games Expo and all the news that's come out from the community and the hobby over the past 7 days. Brother Lloyd also pops in and we talk a bit about trains. No surprise there. And top of all of that, we also have a copy of Hit the Beach for Flames of War to give away from store.ontabletop.com. To be with a chance to win, you need to comment on this video, give us a like, be a subscriber to the channel on YouTube, and if you can, share it around. Otherwise, sit back and relax because we're going to go through a week's worth of news, and your weekend starts now. Hello, everybody. We're back again after our little expo hiatus, and I am joined by Brother Lloyd.
Hey!
And Justin. And of course, as always, Ben is with me, my sibling tasty boy.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
So before we get kicked into the show and let you know everything that's been happening in the news over the past week, there's a couple of bits of sort of housekeeping we need to do. First up, Benjamino, the UK Games Expo then. Did you have fun?
Yeah, it was good. It was a lot of rushing around, a lot of taking videos of things, lots of pictures, but it was also very, very fun as well. It was really nice to go there and see a lot of the companies that we hadn't seen in a while, see some big names, see lots and lots of indies as well, which was really fantastic. And all of that content that we managed to put together is available as part of the UK Games Expo section on Tabletop. So if you want to dive in and watch either the 3 live streams that we did or the 3 live blogs, which are packed full of videos, I think there's about sort of like between 25 and 30 videos in each of those, which is pretty cool. You can go and check each of those out, watch the videos. They're also available over on youtube.com/OnTabletop Live, as Lloyd drilled into me constantly over the weekend. So if you want to go and check out the videos there in a big long playlist, then you can do that as well. I believe we also have playlists over on our main YouTube channel as well, so there's a good option to go and watch it there too. But if you want to get involved and sort of put some comments in as well, that would also be awesome, and check out what everyone else was seeing about the event over the last weekend. As I say, was really good fun. It was fantastic talking to a lot of different people. We actually got a whole bunch of videos that covered like a wide range of things. So we had miniatures games in there, which was really cool. There's a really fantastic one that's kind of like a new game coming out towards the end of this year by Kickstarter called Scythopian Wars, which looks amazing. With really, really unique looking characters and miniatures in it. We also looked at a whole bunch of really cool board games. We also did some role-playing stuff as well. So if, like Jerry, you're obsessed with Free League, there is a very good chat with the folks from Free League.
I'm not obsessed. That's barely half a shelf up there.
Well, we also caught up with Defiance, who have a ton of cool RPGs as well.
Yeah. So there's lots of stuff to do with Dune, which is pretty cool, or Dune, however you want to say.
Star Trek.
Dune. Dune. But yeah, it was a really, really good time, and there are plenty of really awesome videos to check out. There's also a very, very funny video that Justin and I shot when we went to the Viking village. We didn't do a battle report this time, as was the case in 2019, but we did get to effectively hear kind of like their talk on like how to be an adventurer, and we got to see a Viking.
You got to play The Sims with a Viking.
We did.
Pretty much, yeah. But it was a nice contrast and compare. You know, whenever you're playing video games and you can carry 20, 30 different swords, seeing an actual reenactor just loaded down, I have to say, the life model we used for that, he was such a good sport about it.
It was very good. It was very good.
This dude here. This guy.
Yes. Yeah. Now, I was only interviewing him at that point because it was day 3, and John, the guy I was meant to interview, was literally just losing his voice, and it was just like, no, I need a drink of something. It was just like, well, I can stop and restart, or let's roll with this. And actually talking to the guy that was modeled up for being loaded down, really knowledgeable about, just reenactments, what you do, even some of the old skills and stuff that you can pick up from it. I have to say, seeing this, I am tempted to pick up a new hobby, which would be doing a little bit of leather working.
Well, you've got your fan braces. So.
That is very true. You have your fan braces.
I love people's reactions to that, because I saw them on the stand and I knew everyone would go, why? And I just went, but why not? This is going to be amazing.
It is one way of looking at it. But yeah,
and I am going to turn them into a cosplay at some point.
Yeah. The reenactment side, you often get anybody who's involved in reenactment, they are into it for the living history point of view. They're not just walking mannequins, essentially.
They're beating people up with swords.
If they're wearing stuff, they know why they're wearing it and how the people sort of interacted and lived. So
that and some other folks that turn up, they actually have picked up those living history skills. They have blacksmiths and stuff. You're real blacksmiths that turn up to the event.
What about that pesky slinger that's been there year after year, killing people from afar? Was he there?
I don't know. It was a reduced crew this year because of just it being
because he would have been ultimately social distance, killing people from 20 meters away.
They had skirmishes rather than battles, I think would be the right way to say it. But no, it was still very good fun, and as I say, plenty of content for you to go and catch up on. It was great seeing Free let loose on everything as well, which was really cool. So she got to go and hunt down all the cute and fluffy games that she wanted to, as well as some sort of weird and wacky things as well, which was cool.
Yeah. So. There was a lot of excellent stuff in there, and if people are interested in catching up, like I say, the links are all there, either on Tabletop Live or over in our live blogs on the main site, so you can see what you missed and see possibly some of the big things for the rest of 2021 and possibly even into 2022 through that.
Exactly. If you're on YouTube, you will see our live streams in the videos and you will see our introductions to the days. But if you go to the homepage, then you will see other playlists we've pulled in from our live channel. If you want to see all the individual videos, like Jerry says, hit the blogs or come on over to OnTableTop Live and you'll find all the stuff broken down into playlists per day.
I'd just also like to point out that if you go back to our main YouTube channel, Lloyd, we are on 99,000 subscribers now.
Look at that.
So if we could get to 100K, that would mean that someone would win that prize that we haven't forgotten about.
So the Katachan Colonel, I had it set aside.
And more.
Oh, there was and more to that. I did not know.
It's a bundle of things. It's a bundle of things.
Okay, fair enough. But no, one of my favorite things was one of the smallest stands there, but one of the coolest was the Dungeons and Diversity stand.
That was really
I thought that was just such a fun thing. And to have a company go, you know what, we love this fan-made rule set and we're going to start making miniatures. And the miniatures are so gorgeous. If you get a chance, guys, make sure and go and check out that video because it was such a good chat.
All credit to Laughing Boy for putting together, 3D printing and painting something within an evening and a morning as well, which was really cool.
Yeah, is it this? Is this the mini he painted?
Yeah. That's the one he painted, yeah.
He saw it on the live blog, he bought it, he printed it, and he painted it live that night. And it was all done and dusted for the next morning.
Fair dues, man. Fair dues.
Very cool stuff.
I have to say, it shows a level of commitment I will never reach.
Well, unless
you have a game to play, Jerry, in which case you'll batter through those.
Yeah, they will hammered out a rate of knots. But so apart from the UK Games Expo, this week also sees the launch of the 2021 Great Wargaming Survey from the guys over at Wargames Soldiers and Strategy. So this is their 7th year of putting this together, and they just do it to try and get an idea of the industry. People often say things like historics are dead or nobody likes metal or these sort of things, and they do this survey every year and then they publish the results, so you can see things like where the demographics at. Are there more women getting involved? Is the age increasing? Is it a greying hobby? What sort of things do people aim towards? Are skirmishes the way forward? All of this and more will be answered if you get involved and take part in that survey. It's a relatively quick thing to do. 5 minutes sort of hammers you through it. And you will get rewarded for your efforts of typing things in. So that's always good because there is a raffle with a lot of stuff from various people in the industry. So there's games from the Two Fat Lardies, boxes from Wargames Atlantic, from the Perrys. There are subscriptions for magazines to win as well. But even if you don't win the raffle side, there is still, I think, 7 articles plucked from 25 different issues, or the last 25 issues of Wargames Soldiers and Strategy, that everybody gets access to. So if you aren't a reader of that particular magazine, then you can see what you're missing out on. And there's also a €5, I say euro because they're a Dutch publishing company, €5 voucher for Cassowary Publishing, who, apart from publishing Wargame Soldiers and Strategy, they also do two excellent historical magazines, so Medieval Warrior and Ancient Warfare.
They are very cool.
Which come out, I think, bi-monthly. But they also publish books as well, so I've picked up several in the past on both Roman Dacian Wars, Greek Peloponnesian War, Greek Warrior in general. So very much a historic-based company, but even if you're not into historics, go and fill in the survey because the questions are there for every wargamer, regardless of scale, material, or game that you play or favor. It's just a good idea for people to get an idea of where the whole hobby is and where we're heading to. So yeah.
Absolutely.
If you have the time.
The URL is a bit weird. It's gws2021.paperform.co.
Yeah,
I'll have a link down below. So
yes,
it's a great
you do not have to type.
Yeah, if push comes to shove and you find you can't click that link, just do a search for Great Wargaming Survey 2021 and you'll find it.
Popped up on Google quite quickly.
Or come across the OnTableTop.com because it is in the news flow.
It is. That is true. Yeah, but that's our updates out of the way, and it's time for the most important part of the week, which is Warren. Oh, no, Warren. No, Warren. Nobody's getting their ears exploded this week. So
back to the ASMR variant.
Yeah, it is the Indie of the Week.
Oh.
So Skytrex had a brief look. If you were watching last week at the UK Games Expo, pulled up the website then, but I thought it was one that was worth revisiting and exploring in more detail for a couple of reasons. First off, you can see the big blue Trent Miniatures logo there that baffled me when I scrolled on this page because I wasn't expecting to see it. And the reason I wasn't expecting to see it is they've literally only just got Trent Miniatures on the Friday before last. So a week ago, they Trent Miniatures got moved across with Duncan McFarlane's passing. So obviously the guy who saved Wargaming in the UK, it's his miniature line originally. Yeah, it had gone somewhere else, but apparently, because he died very, very suddenly, but he wanted Warlord, so his John Steller and his friends there, to continue doing it. So it's come across to Skytrex, who are connected to Warlord now, and they have it. Not everything from Skytrex ranges on the site at the moment, because they are literally updating that as quickly as they can, and that is a big collection with a lot of stuff to put in there. So, there's lots of stuff to look at. But I think if we kick in, shall we have a look at railways now so we can get out of the way, Lloyd?
No. We'll do military stuff.
Let's have a look at the military stuff then. Okay, that was very brave of you. You're a very brave soldier.
I'm sacrificing myself for you all.
God bless you.
Thank you, Lloyd.
And all who sail in you. So with the military models, they do a few different scales and several different periods. So you have Action 200, which is essentially 10 mil, so 1/200 scale stuff. A lot of modern and sort of Vietnam in there. Command Decision is their 15 mil range, which is perfect for people who are into Flames of War, Command Decision, Panzer Grenadier Deluxe, things like that. 28 mil is 28 mil, so that's their own line. And then they also have the Trent stuff, and then they also have the Firefight 20 and in the Navy. In the Navy are just a variety of things, so sort of 1/600th, 1/700th, which is similar to Black Seas, but also World War II, Age of Sail, and some submarines. So it's more collectibles than miniatures for games, although you can still use some of those miniatures in your games or on your tabletops anyway. So if you want to do a Saint Nazaire raid or that sort of thing, then you can do that. Or if you want to actually play naval engagements with your boats, you can do that as well.
Sweet.
So do we want to plow into...
They've got a bunch of decals there as well.
They do, and those are all for their 15 mil stuff. So if you're into Flames of War, and if you're looking to do pretty much anything, all of the unit markings are there for the major powers.
Good options.
Well,
yeah, it's excellent range of stuff.
If we jump into 15 mil, is that Command Decision?
Command Decision, yep. And this, they literally launched this back when Flames of War was coming out, and 15 mil was becoming a new area for World War II gamers, and they do a whole host across all of the nations, including things like battlefield accessories, which is a really nice set of stuff. If you're looking to do D-Day, definitely take a look at that.
Oh, wow, quick look.
Yeah, so you've got your
nice
bunkers and stuff. Very cool.
You have the beach obstacles, Dragon's Teeth and concrete bunkers, and you even have your little sort of guard sheds. All you're missing is a Doberman and German asking for Papieren. But I do love the bridges as well. Especially if you're going through the Low Countries, so those sort of girder bridges for the Belgium, the Netherlands, and the like. It's excellent. If you want to do your, not big enough for Pegasus Bridge, but similar things to it, your canalways and things like that covered.
Yeah, if you want to do a nice bridge assault.
Yeah, these are beautiful, beautiful pieces of kit to use for them, and not enough canals on bridges, I feel, for World War II.
I do like the way they've designed them as well, because you can just link as many components of the bridge together as you like.
Yeah, you can make them triple arched or just straight into
nicely modular.
But when you start going through the various nations, you'll find that they are comprehensive. So if you are looking to add things like machine gun teams or pioneers or assaults, or get a little individuality into your forces for the tabletop, then they are absolutely spectacular. You can see a set of Jeep. Could also be tank riders. I know the British didn't use it as a doctrine, but there are lots of photos out there of British troops sitting on tanks, getting a lift, or sitting on captured German tanks after they've taken it. So if you want to do a little 15mm diorama, and especially Flames of War, you often have objective markers that work on the large artillery base size. Then you can have, you can have a bunch of Tommies sitting on a captured Panther or Tiger, just showing off,
or sitting on like a V2 rocket to feel the power.
I think there is a V2 rocket in the German section, if memory serves. But I would suggest it's
your
very
dreams
upright.
can come true.
So you may want to go for a V1, which at least is more horizontal and less likely to fall off. But also in here you see things like the armored bulldozers and some of the more esoteric pieces that you may not find.
That's nice and quirky,
in standard sort of ranges from some of the bigger companies that focus primarily on just the war game side of things, just being able to have your beach bulldozer to get in there and plow away some of those obstacles.
What I quite like about what we've seen so far from those is that, and I know Battlefront have tweaked the way that they do their infantry in particular now, but back in the day, a lot of their old metal ones had kind of like big head syndrome, like they turned it on a video game with a cheat code. Whereas I think these in the metal format, as you've seen here, are actually looking really nice, and they've got like good proportions to them, which is cool.
The proportions are excellent. And if anybody isn't aware of Skytrex, they match very well in with Peter Pig and King and Care as well. So,
nice.
Those three ranges can all add a lot of variety. I mean, you don't need to. You could build a full army from here if you want, or if you've already got an army and you're just looking to add a new platoon or add somebody a bit different, just to mix it up a bit. So especially if you've picked up some of the latest stuff that has plastics in it, like the Hit the Beach set, then, you can throw some of these in to expand on those. Some of the ranges will be slightly bigger than others, but they're comprehensive across the board. So you should be able to put together full armies for all of the powers in here, as you can see there with the US paraplatoon there. So if you fancy doing your Band of Brothers, if you fancy going 101st Airborne, then it's a way to go.
Yeah, that stretcher bearers kit though, that's a nice touch to have. I don't think I've ever seen that before. Scale.
Yeah, I think you see it a lot in 28mm, especially for bolt action, because you tend to see those used as either objective markers or something, or like wound markers, for example. Yeah. I think that's really neat to see that, because you can kind of add to the narrative of what you're playing on the tabletop with those.
You can build a field hospital.
It's kind of cinematic to be able to look down the gaming table and see your army completely bollocksed.
It is. It very much is. Apart from the Americans, as you can see there, they have some of the more interesting things. There's the MES. If you fancy doing your greyhounding around the place, especially if you're playing Detroit's finest, the M8 is particularly filthy in Flames of War. I'm just saying. I have a friend plays them all the time, and they should not be allowed on the tabletop opposite me. But you will find throughout all of the nations all of these beautifully individualized sculpts.
How big is the Italian collection?
Let me just show you how big this collection is.
It is pretty massive.
That keeps going.
You need to hit show more to show the rest. Yeah.
Wow. So you can really just build an entire army of.
Oh God, yeah.
What they've got.
Show more.
I love seeing the American half track with the quad 50s on the back.
Like I say, this is
Even got amphibious versions.
Yeah,
that's
this is 15 years worth of
you got your GMCs
building.
Nice. The reason I was asking about the Italian side of things is because I saw the new trailer for Company of Heroes, where they're going to be doing the fight up from sort of North Africa into Italy and things. Mm-hmm. So I was thinking it'd be pretty cool to see what their range is like, because I think it'd be fun to refight some of that campaign. I think that'd be really cool.
The soft underbelly of Europe.
Yeah. As the new bolt action book title. So, yeah.
Well, that's what they called it. And I mean, not just bolt action. Battle Group is going to Italy next as well.
Nice.
So if people are, and because Battle Group is scale agnostic, you can play it in 15 mil. So you could do it there as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Look at the Italians, Lloyd. Look at the Italians.
I'm just trying to. There we go. Finally got to the end.
Wow.
I'm tired of seeing US. I want to see Italians.
I just want to show these last things that I clicked on.
The mortars, yeah. Mm-hmm. So a nice mortar platoon, lots of 80mm mortars and chuck away over 60. Are they only 60s? Yeah. They're baby mortars.
It's nice that they have them deployed and in like over the shoulder transporting to position mode.
Yeah, we don't get enough of that. I think, especially in this scale, actually. Mm-hmm. I think
the German Battlefront had a really nice set for the Germans, carrying tripod deployed MG42s running forward. So you've got 3 guys literally carrying a part of the tripod edge. Sounds awesome. Having put them together, not quite as awesome as I wanted it to be. But yeah, really nice stuff anyway. Mm-hmm. And there's the Italians. So if you want to do your North Africa or your defense of Italy, so Mr. Sicily and the rest, you can go for your guns.
Mm-hmm. It looks like they've got a nice level of detail on there. A little bit of cleaning from old lines, but nothing too severe.
It's metals for
part and parcel. Yeah,
just a stiff wire brush or wire wool, and away you go, and you should be grand with it. But having the tropical hats on them there should be very nice.
That's really cool. Yeah.
Don't get enough credit, and also at the same time, their command don't get enough of a chewing out.
Very true. Yeah.
When the Germans arrived in North Africa, they went to the Italians who they were supporting and went, "Is there anything we need to know about, fighting here in the desert and tropical? Because we don't have any real tropical thing." They went, "No, it's all fine. We can just use our regular diesel and our." Oh yeah. Lies. The Italians actually had their own variant of diesel specifically for tropical combat because they knew it wouldn't work as well using the regular stuff from Europe, and didn't tell the Germans. No point in just siding with your allies and helping things. I mean, it's not like you have a war to win or anything.
An angry Rommel.
They were always going to be screwed anyway with that dipstick Mussolini in charge.
Well,
what an absolute plonker. Because if you see any footage of him, he's doing this whole crap and every flipping standing up and flipping balconies looking up. Just what a knob. What an absolute knob.
Anyway. Yeah. But so apart from the 15 mil, not to get bogged down in here.
Oh, we didn't even get to the Germans. Come on.
I mean,
gonna have to have a look at the Germans.
They have all the things.
They got the motorbikes and everything. Yay.
Yeah,
do they have a
side cards?
Because you can do full motorbike deployed recon platoons. So you get forward on your bikes and then hop off. Here's the Hetzer, not actually a Hetzer, but everybody knows it's a Hetzer.
Blitzkrieg.
Yeah. Do they have a Kettengrad?
I want to say it's Kradschützen.
I'm assuming this range is ginormous as well.
Yeah, it is. Weirdly, it's I think it's one of their biggest. Yeah,
I would assume that the big 3 are absolutely packed with them, like the Germans, the US, and the UK,
and the Russians. Don't forget the Russians.
Goodness sakes, the Russians.
Nobody forgets the Russians.
Well,
you forget the Russians at your peril.
I find it funny. John was having a look at our bolt action Russian force today, and he's just like, "When did I paint 300 miniatures? I must have blocked that out."
That is protective amnesia. Yeah.
This is them. This is them when they've opened the Ark of the Covenant. This is what happens.
Fortunately, there is no tiny 15 mil Ark of the Covenant, which is a crying shame. I have a 28 mil one there.
I'm sure I can find a 3D file or something.
Just get a house from Monopoly. Stick 2 sticks on the side.
Yeah, you're fine.
Right.
Sorted.
Always thinking ahead. I like that. So
28 mil then.
Have a look at the 28s. and this will be a mix of their own range, but I think Trent is starting to feed in here as well.
Ooh.
Although you have a separate link for Trent later on.
They got World War One stuff.
They have World War One stuff. I will be revisiting their
Man.
World War One stuff when I start working on our Blood and Valor forces later
I
on.
love those old started tanks. They're so cool.
Yeah, don't worry. I will not be doing any of the British tanks because I'm planning on doing a French and German force.
Honestly,
Right.
the French tank there, it's so weird looking.
Which one? There are
That
two,
one.
and they're both weird.
The land
Charmin.
ships,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah.
The Chaman is
Quite the
it was,
odd thing.
It was specifically made to cross trenches.
Yeah.
So you have a long nose on it so you don't dig in. The German one was specifically made to kill everybody with diesel fumes as quickly as possible.
It
There was like
terrifies me.
105 people inside that. It was a ridiculous amount of people, and it was just bellowing smoke.
Yeah, the crew sizes that were in these machines was ridiculous. I remember watching a documentary about the actual sheet metal that
There's
they
no
used.
Renault.
If you were firing a standard rifle round at it, you could actually still get spalling on the inside that would hurt the crew.
Yeah, that's also because if you cast it too brittle,
Mm-hmm.
it essentially turns into sheets of shrapnel.
Yep.
So it's always
Oh.
good.
I think I just went Napoleonics by mistake there.
Well, like I say, this 28mm stuff is just a big list of all the 28mm
Mix
stuff.
and match of things.
But as you
yeah.
can see, they do some really nice sets as well for Skytrex, which could be used for moderns or World War II or Napoleonics. So you've got your warehouse sets, you've
Look at
got
that.
barrels
Oh, yeah.
for modern, you've
That
got
would paint up lovely.
skips.
That's where the Ark of the Covenant is
That's
now.
it. That's the end.
That is literally
It's being
just
handled by top men.
2 sets of those in rows either side.
Yeah. Anyone smell wood burning?
Did I see that recently they've been looking at adding, I think it was a bunch of French infantry to the 28mm stuff? Because they'd announced that they were bringing out those new tanks for World War One. And then I think they were saying, like, coming soon, they were going to do like a set of French infantry from like World War One, I think, as well.
I don't think they're on the website yet.
Right,
I think it's been announced, but they haven't hit yet. Now you're starting to hit some of the stuff from Trent here as well. So they really do cover a lot of the smaller conflicts at the end of the 18th century. So late 1700s, 1780s, 1790s, early 1800s. You will find miniatures in here for what I'm going to call the period of revolution. Everybody was having a revolution. The French had a revolution. The Americans had a revolution. The Haitians had revolutions. The Irish had many revolutions, roughly every couple of years, whenever we had nothing else to do. And you can find miniatures in here from the Trent line for those. So there we see like Irish insurgents. Those would have been from the 1798
These ones here?
rising.
Wow, yeah.
So that was the big one. That's Wolfe Tone, Henry Joy McCracken. That was All Ireland. Many kick-ups. Big one here in Antrim, where I live, that sort of died on its backside at the gates of the castle. But being able to, you can get British troops, 1790s British troops very easily because a lot of people have them for the European and American and French and Indian wars.
Right.
But getting the actual Irish to fight against them, harder.
Well,
here they are. En masse.
I can filter this by Trent.
Yeah, if you go to Trent, you'll be able to. It will break it down slightly because you'll see some of the Skytrex 28s aren't purely historics. There are weird and wacky things. There are magically challenged dwarf wizards. They go bed. That's just for you. They are lovely sculpts, mind you. But in amongst these, the minute the picture gets even smaller, that's how dwarf they are. But in amongst these...
It's a marketing strategy to get people to buy it so they can see it.
Just buy it and see up close.
It worked on you with Drabant.
It did work
That is
on me.
very true.
I literally bought a whole range of models because I couldn't see them.
And then did you take pictures of all the models and post them so that
No,
people can
because I was greedy and kept it to myself.
There you go, then see. Once bitten, twice shy. But there are obviously there's stuff for the 1790s for various periods that I'm unaware of, along with others I am. So there's Blackhoof from the Shawnees. That's French and Indian War stuff there.
Nice.
Which obviously, if you fancy your Last of the Mohicans, if you're planning on doing Savage Frontier, it's coming soon from Footsore. You can do that sort of thing. Beside him there, see no, there's no point in clicking on it because I'm fairly certain that picture gets no bigger or indeed doesn't exist. The Bookman.
Well, let's find out.
Yeah. So that is the So there you go, even better, smaller again. But that's the Haitian Revolution.
Okay, right.
Which and unlike the multiple Irish attempts, the Haitian Revolution was successful. But they have both factions. They have the slaves, and then they also have the sort of the Cuban militia with their dogs and other bits and pieces that you would expect to see on there.
It's what I find quite nice about companies that try and delve into these sort of areas of history that we haven't necessarily looked at in great detail when it comes to wargaming, is that you look at something like that, and now I immediately want to go and Google what the Haitian Revolution was all about, just so that I can kind of get a grounding in it, kind of thing.
We just flew way up there.
You flying back up further into time. I mean, there are things that are in here. So I mean, there's the Cuban chasseurs and dogs. So there are things that could be used for Haitian Revolution, but then could also fit into other similar areas or periods. If you want to do sort of wars in Mexico and in around Florida's sort of direction of America, you could also do that. There are some beautiful. I mean, there's just French casualties. From the French army,
beautiful, some French casualties.
because they are standard. But whenever we're looking at them, we generally look at France around this period as Napoleonic. However, apart from the French army, they also have the counter-revolutionaries from the French Revolution. So you have the Vendées, which was practically unknown. Let's face it. Not many people know that there was a Royal Catholic army raised to attempt to restore the monarchy in France after the Revolution. It didn't last long. There was maybe a year's worth of battles, but they have miniatures in here for that, so you can try and do the counter-revolution before Napoleon comes along and starts annexing all of Europe for France.
Right. Well, this section's ginormous, gents.
Yeah. No,
if you want to have a look
and this section is just getting bigger and bigger as time goes on. If you wait too long, they'll put more pictures in at the bottom. You'll never reach an end.
We haven't got to the model railway stuff yet.
No, but we can quite happily jump onto the model railway. But like I say, the Trent miniature stuff, so late 18th century, early 19th century, a lot of stuff from a lot of different areas. So North America, Europe, Haiti, Ireland. There are all these little conflicts that last for maybe a year, maybe a couple of months. In the case, they've got stuff for the 1803 Irish Rebellion, which was one day. They attempted a revolution. They started in Dublin. It didn't go well. People arrived from various other parts and discovered they weren't getting any arms or armament and went home. Interesting thing about the 1803, in preparation for it, they came up with folding pikes that could be hidden under a long coat that then would be hinged out so they could be concealed when they were gathering and then deployed.
Interesting.
Which is amazing. But yeah, so really specific little things which make fascinating periods for skirmish games and things like that.
I was waiting for you to tell me that they hinged the wrong way, so when they held them out and someone charged into them, they just bent back.
They just bent back. That'd be better. No, they reckon they were going to have explosives, pikes, and musketry as well. And then people arrived from, I think, Wicklow and Kerry, and then were told, there's no guns for you, and they went home again. Also, they had to launch it a bit earlier because somebody accidentally blew up one of the explosive factories when they were prepping stuff, and it was like, what if people work out what we're doing? So it was a bit of a failed attempt, but yeah, Trent Miniatures, stunning line. Glad to see Skytrex doing it, and like I say, all the other stuff on Skytrex.
I can see Lloyd hovering with anticipation over railways.
Let's have a look at the railway stuff. The railway stuff is great for real people, not just Lloyd's, because it's O and O scale.
Now, is that real people or real people?
No, real people. So
okay.
O scale is 1/48th, which is borderline 28 mil.
Okay, right, yeah.
So you could use your O gauge for 28 mil settings, and 00 is more or less 20 mil. So if you're not too fussy about the size of miniatures, it's 1/76th instead of 1/72nd.
Lloyd is fussy.
Is close.
I'm fussy because the trains and stuff look kind of ginormous.
Yeah, but I don't care about the trains. I want buildings.
Oh, you want buildings, right?
Yeah, but you can go into them. And these the things like having your water pumps at the end of streets and having scatter and stuff that is close enough to the size that it needs to be for real people, not model train enthusiasts. Then you're good to go.
Real people, not real people.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I've always thought it'd be absolutely fantastic to put together.
I like the derelict one.
To put together like a 28mm game of like bolt action set in a German munitions factory where you have all the train lines running through it, and then you have the big, huge factory buildings, and then there are literally trains on all the tracks and things that you can need to like fight your way around.
Stalingrad and the Eastern Front's very good for that, because there were literally there was a tank factory and there was a railway yard that had I want to say dozens of lines coming into it. So it would be ideal for that. But just seeing things like the front, I'm going to say front skins, I suppose is probably the way to go, where it has a section, and then you buy multiple sections and then build your frontage depending on how big you need it to be. So yes, it is more railway modeler, but it allows a degree of flexibility that we don't normally get when we're buying set buildings, because if you've got a building that has 3 windows, that building will always have 3 windows, whereas here you're going, well, I will buy 5 sections and make that a 5
just
window frontage and just expand it.
Yeah. I will say, I seeing this, it just makes me want to build the train yard from Enemy at the Gates.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Do that, because it all looks nigh onto perfect for what you're doing. And once you get it all weathered down and stuff.
Yeah. And like I say, the 1/48th is a little large, but I know 1/48th to 1/56th works for 28mm, because a lot of companies sort of blur the line there, especially nowadays. And for 20mm stuff, for people doing their airfix or their ABs or that sort of thing, then the 176 stuff is spot on.
Yeah.
I mean, that slight variation in size isn't a major deal breaker for it.
You get away with that because these windows and stuff in reality were huge anyway.
Massive. Yeah.
And do they have any engines?
I have a sneaking suspicion it's just the model side. It's not actually the trains themselves.
Gotcha.
They've got some of that stuff when you go in the OO gauge.
Do they? Oh, right.
Yes, but you're not really interested in that. You're more interested in the scenery.
Yeah, no, I'm literally interested in the scenery from wargaming point of view. I mean, I don't mind. Let me
get that last
things like that.
Oh yeah,
that's nice. Yeah,
a bit of that. Thank you very much.
The new load of Slavia shall rise again.
Yeah, if we go to the OO gauge, then that's the one that. Well, you get away with the scenery, possibly.
Yeah, so I mean, well, that is 20. Stuff. It's 20mm.
It's the same stuff then, just at different sizes.
Some of it will be, yeah.
In the main though, like a crate can be as big as a crate needs to be, kind of thing.
Very true.
The
canal barge, the canal barge is very nice. That actually does blow up to a bigger picture, if memory serves. See,
that's neat. I like that. Yeah.
Isn't it tragic that we both looked at that, Lloyd? What can I say?
That is.
As someone who lives in the West Midlands and loves a bit of canals,
Venice of the North,
the Venice of the North, yeah. Very cool.
Yeah,
very cool.
So I mean, for European from World War II through to moderns, because we still have large sections, certainly of the UK, still have buildings like these. Certainly that 1960s block of flats there, that still exists in places whether people want it to or not. So it's there, it's available, and definitely worth taking a look at model railway stuff for your gaming table. I have a friend has a ton of Hornby models for World War II, because it's just a really simple way of putting stuff on the table very quickly, without any hassle. And I'm all for less of hassle, because then it gives me more time to panic about painting the miniatures. Yeah, so that is our Indie of the Week.
Very nice.
Sweet.
Nice.
Now we're going to move on and take a look at what's been happening in the news.
Coming to you from the center of Northwestern Europe. Covering board games, war games, card games, and all that you love. It's the news.
So we're back to the news. So we were away last weekend because we're at the UK Games Expo. So there is a lot to catch up on from a couple of weeks in the world of tabletop gaming. We start off with something a little bit quick, one that was sort of tied to an indie of the week that we talked about many, many moons ago. Man, we've gone through a lot of those indie companies. You should see our doc. It is lengthy. But I wanted to point out that HeroHammer issue 2, I've marked it as 3 on the running order, but it's 2, is now available. So if you are into diving into the old Hammer world and doing a little bit of Warhammer Fantasy Battle from the sort of editions past, then this is the perfect repository of knowledge for you. It is done by the Crown of Command podcast team, who have worked together with a range of volunteers and all sorts in order to put together a fantastic looking sort of magazine that is reminiscent of White Dwarf of old, and also those lovely 5th and I guess you'd say 6th edition rulebooks that we had for Warhammer Fantasy Battles.
Yes.
Oh, chef's kiss. I've been finding a lot of those on the internet recently. But yes, this new issue has been dedicated to a particular force and faction. The first issue, well, as demonstrated by the cover, this is Skaven this time around. It was
clever.
goblins and orcs, well, orcs and goblins in the first issue, and now in the second issue it is all about the Skaven. So they have put together a section of battle reports, sort of terrain building tips, hobby tips, painting tips, gaming articles, editorials, and all sorts of different things for those people that love messing around with old Hammer style miniatures. I was particularly fond of that one about monopose miniatures. I thought that was really fun. Sort of taking
free.
It is utterly free.
How do you get it? Just follow this link.
So if you follow the link, you'll go to the web page, and there is both a web version of it that you can just browse on their website, and you can also download it as a PDF.
Yay.
And as Sundancer has done, I believe he's downloaded it and printed it off.
Printed out.
He likes reading it in person, which I fully support.
Makes
I believe actually in the
all the sense.
I believe actually they were doing a version of it which actually came with the spine of it as well. So if you wanted to print it off and then bind it, you could, which is pretty cool.
I am loving the fact that the pages actually turn in the PDF. It's a nice little touch.
That is very neat. It is very neat indeed. But yeah, just a neat little sort of update for you guys that HeroHammer is going well. And I believe they were on the lookout for more volunteers and people to get involved in subsequent issues as well. So you have something to talk about that is old Hammer based. Don't hesitate to get in contact with the Crown Command podcast.
98 pages. There's a lot.
Yep.
And it's also worth noting it's not tied to a specific edition of Warhammer.
Yeah.
So it's any of the older sort of iterations are all good. But, 5th is obviously where it's at, apparently.
Especially for these guys, yeah.
Well, especially for Skaven. Oh, there's some filth you could do with Skaven in 5th.
I got to say, Old Hammer rules with Old Hammer tables.
Oh, yes. Goblin green bases and all. Lovely stuff. I really like the fact that you get to see the classic way that they built armies back in those days, where they were basically about 30 models. And that was the size of like a standard army, which I thought was really fun, especially for something like dwarves. It was really cool. I also like that they present a lot of the battle reports in the same style as the old White Dwarf ones. We had the little map with all the legend on it and stuff, and then you have them all sat in front of like a hill and like a building with a blue background or something as well.
You get to see the army laid out, and then later on you get to see the little arrows showing people where they're going to. I love the Gnomish Confederacy army as well. So it's nice that there are, I suppose, fan-made lists cropping up as well in that style, because there were some fantastic ones that have been done over the years. I mean, Dogs of War is a big one, because Dogs of War got no love after its initial release from Games Workshop. They pretty much just went, you buy the miniatures, but you're never going to be able to play with them. God bless them. So hopefully there'll be more sort of fan-made lists for the more unusual ranges out there, because there's a ton of weird and wacky things. So I mean, Samurai, it's been a long time since Samurai have taken the field.
Head to Nippon,
Yep, with their food dogs and the like, which is good because I still have some Samurai and food dogs next door. Any day now I'm going to assemble and paint.
Well, they'll be coming back for the old one. So
promise by Jerry.
So Samurai, you say?
Yeah,
all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, but I've GW Samurai
from
the late
GW stuff.
That I never got around to building or painting.
Style.
Then the army went away, so it didn't really matter. But
I guarantee you, Jerry probably has the original molds for them sitting about somewhere that he just filched.
No, it was too difficult to get them out. Watch you like a hawk in Lenton when you went in the back, when you went into the mail order bit. But yeah, it's terrific stuff from the guys at HeroHammer, and long way it continue. And if you have an inkling to get involved, then please go over and show them your support and let them know, because they're always on the lookout. I mean, filthy lists are always good. telling people exactly how you've made your opponents cry with your list building as a way to go. Goblins obviously was a great one for that, but it's given her up there too. And it'd be interesting to see what else crops up in the future.
I'm hoping they do dwarves next, because they've done orcs and goblins, they've done Skaven. So the natural enemy of both is the
both
dwarves.
would be the dwarves.
Sure.
Yeah, go for the standees. Go for the standees.
Waiting for another issue of kicking Lloyd's toys in.
I'm waiting for Undead and Empire of Men.
Empire, I would be tempted by Bretonnia because it was an army that always looked good to me, but I never had the courage to actually dive in and buy it, because at that stage it was you were looking at like a grand investment to get a tournament ready force on the table.
Very true.
Same for any GW army at that stage, to be really honest. But with these, you say no, but yeah, because you weren't old enough to be playing when they were in lead, so you would have joined in whenever they were plastic. Yes, there you go then. Much
back in the plastic start set.
But if you go back to the likes of Empire, the classic sort of up to 5th edition, you've got ogres and you've got halflings and you've got dwarves in there, which all I think got dropped out of the Empire list later on. And then Bretonnian, you also had foot knights. Likewise, Empire had Reichsguard on foot. So it was just a better time before they started removing things from the lists. Let's remove stuff. No, put it all back in. I was actually turning into fire pots.
I was actually reading the old, I think it was the 5th edition book for the Empire, and looking through that list and seeing like all the different knightly orders. Great. You got your halfling hot pot in there. Great. You got your dwarves that live around the Reichland. That was included, as you say. It was a really, really good book, actually, that sort of combined a lot of stuff together.
Stunning book. Yeah. Everything old is always better. Just saying.
I just remember the old Pegasus Knights that I got for John that he never built or painted. They were for his birthday and just did nothing with them. And you're like, oh.
Bretonnian, that's why.
I know.
Probably because the wings kept falling off.
No, he didn't even get them built. So the wings couldn't fall off because they never went on.
They will be worth a pretty penny now if you still got them. So.
They are. True. I think he had a massive clear out at one point and they may have gone to the bin.
By clear out means he took them all out into the backyard, put them on a metal sheet and sprayed lighter fluid all over them and danced wildly around the lip of the volcano. It was great. It would look good. Did you not see the footage?
I saw the footage. I didn't know that was John. It explains a lot.
Moving on from HeroHammer. We have got a new announcement from Corvus Belli.
Yeah.
So this came out of nowhere just before the weekend. That finally they're going to be moving away from metal and starting to supplement the range with a new plastic. So they're going to be using the SioCast method for thermoplastic casting. Now, before Infinity players have a massive panic attack and heart attacks stretch up and down the land, it is not going to be the whole range. Instead, what they're going to do is supplement what they're currently doing. So the larger models that would be big kits in metal. So you can see there an example. We'll get the SioCast method, but also some of the smaller things. So at the moment, there are little token packs where you might get a couple of small robot models and a couple of human infantry models in a pack. They'll also be SioCasted up, and it's interesting because they've always said they would never move away from metal unless they could guarantee the quality. So they've been working away on the background for a long time. And two, the price of metal, if people haven't been paying attention, has skyrocketed over the last year. I think it's like a 35% increase.
Yeah.
So it's sensible.
If you don't know what we're talking about, though, go and check out the video we did over at UK Games Expo.
Yeah, I got a chance to catch up with these guys, which was very, very cool hearing about the process and just seeing how it runs. I was blown away. This was one of the big highlights of the show for me. And one of the things that I'm not sure if we got across really well is these thermoplastics come in multiple colors. So if Infinity ever start, SioCasting their starter sets, they can color them to the faction to just ease players in, just going, if you get a belt, it's colored, you can read it on the table, off you go. You see them in the background there in the pots.
So let me just ask a simple question here then.
Yes.
Is this like spin casting but for plastic then?
Yes.
It's not spin casting.
But it's like that sort of process where it's two bits of mold that gets sandwiched.
But for plastics.
See what's in his hand there?
Yeah.
So that's your two-part mold. And then you see the opening on the top.
Yeah.
So basically you slot it in, the nozzle comes down, fills the hole, pressures everything up, and it injection molds it in with the thermoplastic.
So nothing goes wee.
Nothing spins. It's literally place down, pressure, and then pump in till all the air's out.
Yeah,
And
but it works on exactly the same way as spin casting. It's
except
gravity,
it doesn't spin.
It's gravity fed. You have the hole in the top of the mold, and instead of using gravity to get your material into all of the mold, it uses pressure and injection.
Mm.
But otherwise, the mold build is exactly the same as spin casting. The mold material is practically the same as spin casting, which means they can get the undercuts that you would get with spin cast as opposed to HIPS plastics.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, HIPS plastics
Yeah,
is
so that brings me
oxymoron.
to my next question. Do we know what sort of plastic this is? Is this just like a true plastic?
Well,
or is this one of these weird plastics?
It's a true plastic.
So does it clean up nicely with like craft knives, or does it do that whole scraping thing that like the other PVC type stuff does?
It will burr if you do that.
Mm.
Yeah.
So it does.
Yeah. See, the problem I have is the phrase true plastic, because it is a plastic. It's not like one plastic is more plastic than other plastics. It's the same way I don't like restic, as in resin plastic, because resin is a plastic. So you're saying plastic.
Mm.
So yes, it is a plastic. It is a soft plastic rather than the styrene based. So if you're cleaning up with a sharp craft knife. I have filed and then used some bits and pieces to remove the burrs, but you're better off just not filing if you're not comfortable with it. Mm. But I've seen various companies use this so far, and depending on how good their tooling is, the cleanup can be negligible to none at all. Other ones are a bit more frisky on it, because one of the things that you see in the video is specific molds will require specific pressures and timings. So the companies themselves need to do a bit of work. It's not just like metal casting. You spin the mold and pour the metal in until you're done. With this one, you need to go, well, this mold has larger pieces, so the pressure needs to be higher and needs to run for longer. This is smaller with thinner parts. It doesn't need to be as great, because if it's too high, it will get flashing.
It's also working out the exact precise volume of the thermoplastic that you're injecting in to make sure you don't overfill your mold.
Yeah. So
because if you're
everything needs to have its own little essentially recipe for casting.
But they do a full training course for folks.
It was very impressive, and what we did see of it came out very, very quickly, and it didn't look like there was much in the way of flashing or anything. So obviously these were test pieces that they'd clearly done dozens and dozens of times before, but it was very, very impressive.
Yeah, but I've seen the stuff from Plastic Soldier Company. Who are using it, and some of their early stuff was a very flash heavy, and other bits and pieces I've got from like their 10mm Cold War for Battle Group is absolutely crisp as a nut. However, some of it has really bad sprue gates, where they've put the sprue gate right on the back of the vehicle that they've cast, which means when you remove that, you're just taking a lump out of it, and it sort of deforms there. Whereas the bottom that nobody ever sees is perfectly flush and straight and planed, beautiful. So a lot of it will come down to whoever the mold maker is. Yeah. Because these require a mold maker to do the work before the actual casting's done. So Corvus Belli, the way they do their builds now is very intricate, and there's no reason why they can't continue that, because their sprue gates are generally hidden anyway on their models. And if they just maintain that, we know that these can go up to, I want to say he said 60mm depth, but maybe it was 40mm depth.
I think it was 40 if I remember right.
So as long as they maintain the sprue gates in the correct location, they can do quite deep pieces as well. But yeah, it's fascinating to see where they'll go with this.
Yeah, so this SioCast stuff is a machine that they're selling, and all the companies are doing their own castings.
The casting's all in-house.
It's not a casting service then.
It's a casting system.
It's a technology they've been working on, and now they're shipping it, essentially.
That's exactly it, yeah. So
because if anybody can master it, you would think Corvus Belli.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently they had been working on this for some time and weren't planning on releasing it this early, but then the price of metals went up again. So rather than hit the Infinity community with a second price rise in a year, they just went, you know what, we'll bring that forward. But they are planning on going for the tag deathmatch later on this year. And they've also said that some of the things like the big beast from Defiance will be coming into Infinity, and things of its size. And in metal, they would cost an arm and a leg. So I imagine this is another reason they've been looking at this technology to keep the metals for the smaller stuff at the moment, see how things go, and then just replace either the parts that people would be exorbitant prices to get in metal, or the smaller pieces that maybe people are going, do I really need to buy 4 tokens for £20 or £30 because that's what it would cost in metal, whereas they can reduce the cost considerably by going over to the SioCast instead.
The big thing for me is the speed you can actually get production running at with this. Because if you think you're just picking a recipe, so you're not having to like figure out what you're doing for each one. It's just pull out the mold, put your new one in, know what it is, pick the recipe, hit the green button, 30 seconds, pull it out, grab the next, and just continue that cycle. So a smaller company can really ramp up their production speeds with this.
So sticking with Infinity, but going off on a slight tangent, although we also referenced Defiance there, the folks at Luxumbra and also Laser Army Scenery have actually worked together to create an interesting little terrain kit. Well, I say little.
It's quite beefy.
Yeah. So this is the Stalker Shuttle, which the team from Defiance, the board game, use in order to go to their different locations. And so they have put this together as a rather bespoke, lovely piece, as you can see there, for you to use either simply as a table decoration in your games of Defiance, put it next to the entrance of your dungeon, and let it go. Maybe even use it to store your dice. Or you could use it as a full piece of terrain for actual games of Infinity. It is a big, chunky MDF kit that actually comes with interior section as well, so you can remove the sort of outer shell of the vehicle and just have kind of like the loading cargo bay for it as well. So if you want to use it in actual games as a proper gaming piece, you can definitely do that as well and have people fighting around inside it if you like. But yeah, very nice.
HDF then, is it?
MDF kit. So
question: is it coming like pre-colored, pre-painted, anything like that, or is it coming in bare wood?
Nope, bare wood. So you have to get the airbrushes out and start working on it.
Where's this?
Crayons and go for your guns.
Is this up online anywhere yet?
Yeah, so you can pre-order it from Luxumbra right now. So
if I go here, because I want to see its wooden version.
It's a really nice piece of kit if people are planning on doing things like Stargrave as well. So even if you're not into Infinity, Stargrave, Rogue Stars, Core Space, things like that, where you've got a sci-fi board that you're looking to decorate. Because I see an awful lot of tables, I mean, we've played them ourselves, where you've got just a ton of really nice sci-fi terrain, but then no spaceships. I quite like the bubbly, presumably perspex that they're using for the
it is nice
on the front.
It's got a nice effect to it. It's very cool. You could probably get away with using that as some kind of objective room in your ITS games as well.
What is this? Is this something that's supposed to drop off, or is this just a separate thing?
That's the center of the ship.
Yes, that's the middle of it. So you can remove it.
That is in there.
Yes,
behind the slidey door at the side.
So it's a proper nice little piece of interactive terrain, which I think is always good to see. So
always cool, I like it.
Yeah, as I say, if you've got Defiance, it's basically just a big dice holder. But if you're playing actual games of Infinity, then it's obviously a nice piece of terrain to use. Very nice indeed. Moving on from that, we're going to be talking about a little bit of Footsore/Warhost news. So the guys over there have released their second of sort of like a mini scenario campaign style set, which is called A Worthy Man of English Blood.
This hasn't anything to do with Barons Wars, has it?
It is. It's Barons Wars stuff.
Bollocks. Gonna give me stuff that I want to see.
Did your wallet twitch there, Lloyd?
Oh, it is.
So this is the new sort of campaign booklet that is designed to try and get people into the Barons War, pretty much like they did with the first one. In this one, you follow the story of either Thomas, Count of Perche. Is it Perche or Perche? Who knows? Or William of Cassingham. That's easier. As you battle it out over 3 different scenarios. The scenarios have been designed so that they start off relatively simple with a smaller force, and then throughout each of the different scenarios they're a little bit more complex. You'll add more miniatures into the mix, and because it's kind of like a little tiny mini linked campaign, everyone you play through will have the effect on the other one, which I think is really nice.
Where do you get it? You go to their site?
Yep, so you can go and get it from Footsore Miniatures, and you can download it from there. You can either get it.
Is it paid for or free?
It's paid for, so you can either pay for a version of it to be delivered physically, or you can get it in PDF form as well. I will say that if you buy the miniatures for Thomas, or Count Thomas, I guess, and William of Cassingham, you will get the PDF version of the rules for free as well, which is pretty cool. But as well as including the kind of like mini campaign, as I was saying there, you'll also find rules in there for playing groups of outlaws. So obviously using them for William of Cassingham, or you could use it for let's say Robin Hood and his merry men might be a good one in Nottingham, roaming around the woods. And you'll also find rapping. Like the good old children's TV show, or you can also find rules in there for like traps and snares and that kind of thing as well. So
that's nice.
So the Baron's War has been kind of like it's a really awesome little game system. Looks really fun, good for like skirmishing. I know a few of our community members have really dived into it. Good little sort of like size for forces, which I think is nice. Sort of like especially if you're sort of diving in as an intro level thing to sort of medieval period gaming. But yeah, looks fantastic, and it's nice to see them working on sort of like another starter avenue for people to dive into. But of course, if you're already deep in the world of the Baron's War, then you will just have some lovely new miniatures to pick up and play around with.
Check out this picture. Is that the density of a terrain on an average gaming?
Yeah,
Baron's War.
You want it to be a proper chock-a-block skirmishy board. So.
It's the way to do it. I imagine we're going to be seeing a lot more from this in the not too distant. I know they've just started previewing the Welsh for the next.
Coming to Kickstarter at the end of August.
So they're not resting on their laurels, and they're not staying just in England. So Welsh, and then I imagine Scots soon after. Go north of the border, get your toys handed to you by people up there. Be good. I like to see the expansion of it. It's a nice period as well, and a lot of the models, I want to say all of the models are sculpted by Paul Hicks, so you've got that consistency of the range, and he is a legend amongst the sculpting community, so well done him.
Very much so. So moving on from historical stuff, we're going to be heading to the realm of fantasy, because Games Workshop have been tinkering around with all sorts of new and fancy things for the Mortal Realms and Age of Sigmar. Leading the way, we have dragons returning to the Mortal Realms alongside the Forces of Order. And these aren't the kind of like Draconith kind of things that we've seen previously to this, which is sort of like a little bit more of like I like to refer to them almost as like He-Man dragons, where they're slightly more I guess like weird and retro. These are like proper big dragons that you might have expected from traditional fantasy worlds. So there's two particular characters that they've been working on that are kind of be sort of like folded into the storyline. They were dragons that existed pre the Mortal Realms, as it were, when they battled against Kragnos and the like. But when he rampaged across the Mortal Realms, they decided to sort of vanish off into the shadows and abide their time, I guess it would be. But now they are back to stick it to Kragnos once again. So on the one side, you've got Krondis, son of Dracothian, as you can see there. He's looking very, very cool, very, very regal. Got all the raiments of Lord Sigmar across him, which is pretty cool as well. So he's got armor and everything like that, which is nice. It actually kind of like enhances magical abilities on the tabletop in the rules and stuff.
It's dragon. Cool. It's like a dragon version of Justin.
Wait, why?
He's got van braces.
He's got van braces and nothing else.
No, I need to get the big armored collar. Come on, give me something here, lads.
Then you've also got Krondis, who is another. Sorry, not Krondis. You've also got the other character whose name I have not put in the running order, but he's pretty awesome. I've completely forgotten it.
Call him Teddy Westside.
Teddy Westside. There he is. There's his
card.
Yeah. So unlike Krondis, who is sort of like the more ordered of the brothers, this guy is very much more about getting out there and rampaging across the realms, destroying everything that is in any way associated to Kragnos, hence the fact that he's all scarred and battered and beaten up. And I think of the two of them, he's probably the coolest, a little bit more edgelord than his brother, but looking very cool indeed. As I say, they're going to be...
This one here is a real happy-looking chappy.
He looks
like there's a heroic face dragon there.
Yeah,
he's one step away from an upside-down cake.
He's got a very... dragon heart look to him, I like to say.
Yeah.
He looks smug.
He is a smug dragon.
No, I'm with you. Karazai is probably my favorite of the two.
Yeah. Very nice.
It does look like he lost the fight.
Well, he didn't. He's still here. Whoever he was fighting lost the fight.
Yeah. He's just got a couple of broken horns.
Yeah.
That massive scar tissue.
Yeah, but the rules for these guys are going to be available in the new Stormcast Eternals Battletown, because they are fully applicable to the Forces of Order and Sigmar's armies.
I've just realised, because Kragnos is lightning guy, isn't he? Because all the Dragon Ogres were fans of lightning. The damage on Karazai, is that fractal patternation you
Crackling
get
from where he's been hit by
if you get hit by lightning. So when you see people's
That's
lightning
cool.
strike, they get that red scarring that looks like a branching tree.
Mm.
And so he's clearly been up against the Dragon Ogre at some point and taken one.
Which is very, very cool indeed. This then leads on to some additional stuff when it comes to dragons and the mortal realms. So in addition to those two named characters, as we saw there, we've also got dragons coming to the sort of main Stormcast Eternals force as well.
Are these smaller dragons, these other ones then?
These are smaller dragons, but no less big.
Far away.
So these So this is going to be what's called the Storm Guard Drakes. And they are led by the Knight-Draconis, as you see there. So this is a new sort of named character, I guess, that you can use in your Stormcast Eternals forces to lead your armies to victory. Now, the cool thing about him, apart from how badass his dragon looks, is that he can then be used alongside the Storm Guard Drakes, which will then become battle line units, which means that you don't have to worry about including any liberators in your army anymore. You could literally just field dragons and a dragon rider, basically, which I think is amazing. So I really like these again. I think the dragon design is fantastic. I think it's really, really cool. I'm a big fan of dragons anyway. If Free was here, she'd be on my side.
We're not on your side, Ben.
That's true. It's just I think I'm so absorbed with dragons. I think dragons remain.
Basically, you need a dwarf on a dragon.
Yes.
I've one slight problem with their design. Can you go back to the first Dragon Rider, Lord Draken? The fact they've had to hack a hole in his wing to run the belt through to keep his armor on is a bit of a design flaw, I feel.
Just touch.
That's awkward.
Yeah, because there's no way that would have been natural. Oh, what a stroke of luck. They've naturally got Swiss cheese wings right where we need to put a strap. So they've done that deliberately. It's like, doxing a horse or, a bulldog.
If you need to put a piercing in there, sure.
It might help with dirty air and cut down on vortices and stuff, which makes it easier for him to sit on the dragon.
We need to get him in a wind tunnel. Is that what we're thinking?
We need to test
this is not Dragon's F1.
Well, yeah, clearly not, because Lewis Hamilton hasn't crashed into them.
Look, here's one, here's another, and they could race each other.
I
like the fact that all three have a very unique silhouette.
Yes, it is cool. And it means that you should be able to play around and tinker with it when you're making your armies, which is quite nice. So the actual riders themselves either come with those massive storm lances, or you can give them swords instead if you prefer. Obviously, the Knight-Draconis himself comes with that massive flaming sword. As I was saying in the comments to a couple of people, and I said in the news story when we wrote about it, I would love to see these sort of tweaked and changed. Yeah, cool, I like Stormcast Eternals, but how about if you put dragon princes on the back of these? Go and find some badass old miniatures of elves, or find some new ones and tinker around with a little bit of kind of like jiggery pokery. Do some kit bashing, and you could have proper amazing dragon princes of Caledor back in not Caledor fighting things in the mortal realms. I think that'd be fantastic. So, yeah.
I do like the ones without the armor on the head better.
I think it is nice to see them slightly looking more like, kind of like, as you say, like the bestial dragon version of them, rather than the slightly more tame, I guess you'd say.
This is my favorite.
I don't know. I just think the armor on the head of the first one just looks kind of dopey.
I think they are going to do like alternative head options.
I hope so.
It shouldn't be too bad.
But that's just because he doesn't have bangs to go with it.
That is true. If he had the bangs, he'd be landed. It'd be very handy for people who are planning on diving into whatever they call the old world. Is it just going to be the old world?
The old world.
Because they're setting it in that point, and at that point is when Caledor got a load of dragons and dragon princes and went and had at the chaos in the vortex.
Yeah.
En masse in a Flight of Dragons way with Brienne and all the rest.
Tell me
I'm just going to
this.
have Flight of Dragons stuck in my head now for the rest of the day.
Tell me this. Is the old world going to be back on square bases?
It is. Yeah. We talked all about this. Yeah.
And this is for sure.
For shizzle. Yeah.
For shizzle, manizzle.
So before I start making any more flipping Age of Sigmar type stuff, I need to take this into consideration.
You should.
Start ranking things up.
Put them on squares. Like nature intended.
It's all going to be 28 mil as well. Boo! But
nature being old man time, that is Jerry.
But yeah,
nature being me. Yes. Correct.
I think all these are going to look absolutely awesome when they're finally on the table. I can't wait, as I say, to see people doing some kit bashing and tinkering around with these. Give me my Dragon Princes of Caledor.
They do look fairly funky. But in a complete departure from Age of Sigmar and all things fictional and dragonal, we're going to be going off and seeing the French. And Wargames Atlantic have got up their pre-orders for not just their World War I French, but it's a kit that can also expand into World War II.
Ooh,
That's how
very
little
nice.
the French updated their stuff. I'm just saying. Should we
if I
move?
see-
Everybody else is changing. No, it's fine, Pierre. Okay, Michelle.
I'm just looking for someone with a Shona.
Yep. So the War to End All Wars is the range. Already we've got Germans, but this is a French box set that allows you to do from 1916 to 1940, I want to say, or possibly 1914 to 1940. Like I said, they didn't really change a huge amount, but they've bunged a lot in this box set to allow people to make the figures they want to make. So apart from having your great coated French, there is 2 sprues. The first sprue contains all of the options to allow you to make 35 miniatures, including your commands. So you've got riflemen, you've got machine gun, kneeling and firing. They have the sheer volume of heads you would expect from Wargames Atlantic. So you can have your Iberian helms, you can have sort of soft caps, fezzes. You've got your commander in his sort of cappy style cap as well. But there's also a second half frame in the set that also includes some Senghalese pieces, so you can make up your colonial troops.
Nice.
The weapons and arms on the half sprue are all World War II. So it's the more modern rifles, SMGs and LMGs.
Right.
And they also have the big Senghalese, I can't remember the name, I want to call it a Katanga, but it's not. But they essentially their tribal knife that the Senghalese fighters used.
His job is here.
Yeah, because sometimes you just need to really butcher people when you're getting in there, and that will do that like a treat. So
I don't know if I could ever play this army though.
No,
Because I'd be just walking up to the table going, all the Singhalese, all the Singhalese, all the Singhalese, all the Singhalese. and never get any play done.
can I leave this?
Well, I think I can bring us back on track nicely, because recently we
I don't
actually
think
got
so.
a look at the
Nothing's
French
breaking us back
resistance.
from that. But go ahead,
Well,
you try.
Well, recently we did get the unboxing you did, Jerry, for the French resistance.
Yeah, that was cool.
And I'm sure the parts are probably interchangeable in
Oh, yeah.
some of that.
Oh, no, all of that. All of the Wargames Atlantic stuff is 100% interchangeable, which is interesting because they've added a set of African/African-American heads in Adrian helms, or Adrian. So you can do your Harlem Hellfighters. So the
Nice.
American regiment that was actually just essentially dumped on the French because the segregation in the US Army in the First World War, they didn't want them fighting with them.
Mhm.
And the French just went, we've been up against the wall now for years, we'll take anyone at all. And so they were given French helmets, French equipment. As I point out in the article, they were still wearing the American uniforms. And I think somebody, possibly Hudson, seen me say that, because whenever they put it up on their social media, they went, yes, they should be wearing American uniforms, but there are some pictures online of them in French greatcoats. So depends how much of a purist you are. If you are a super purist, keep all of the heads. They are going to be doing American Doughboy unit at some point in the future.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
Do your Senghalese and French from this box, keep the spare heads, and then just pop them onto the American plastics when the American comes out, because they are all completely interchangeable with all of the other ranges. They're designed that way. So you could have your Harlem Hellfighters, who were a remarkable unit. So much so that we are getting some of these, and I'm planning on doing up a set for the studio and getting some
Nice.
Blood and Valor games going.
When you're saying interchangeable, though, that's within the historical side of things, because people are asking.
Ah.
Well, people are asking
well.
about the Les Grognards, and the head attachment slightly
Oh, the head
different.
attachment is different.
And
yeah.
then the scale of the bodies is a little bit shorter and stuff.
Yeah,
so
so within the ranges they do, the Dark Age are all interchangeable within the Dark Age. The sci-fi, so the Space Brits that are coming fairly soon, actually.
Space
The
Brits, you said?
the Les Grognards are going to be interchangeable with the Ram Jaeger.
Nice.
And then the World War One / interwar stuff that they're doing for the War to End All Wars will all be interchangeable. So yes, kit bashing is a little bit trickier when you're taking maybe the French heads and putting them onto the they're doing the stuff for Mark Mondragon's Panzerjäger and Eisenkern. So you've a little more of a problematic bit to do there, but they have rescaled the Eisenkern to make them more in keeping with the stuff they're doing for the sci-fi and the like as well. So harder, but not beyond the realms of possibility. But within an actual range that Wargames Atlantic are doing, you will be able to kit bash to your heart's content. So happy days. Also, I'm fairly certain there are a load of female partisans coming in the second box, because both them and Matthew Leahy kept poking me and taking the mech. I was very good there, taking the mech on social media when I was asking about it, that they wouldn't confirm or deny. But I know for the first Resistant box, people were going there, some female resistance or partisans would be good. So,
and if you're looking for tanks and vehicles and stuff, just go to that Indie of the Week that we looked at.
Skytrex, yep. I will be. I've already looked at the Renault and the German thing, and they'll be winging their way to me as we speak. So
neat stuff. Yeah.
Sweet.
Though they're staying with me, the studio's not getting them. But apart from the Great War Frenchies, we've also had news from WizKids, purveyors of plastic tiny fighting men for things like D&D. Up until now, they've been doing ranges of one-piece models, cheap and cheerful, to give GM stuff to chuck onto the tabletop. And WizKids then came along and threw out a big bit of news, which is their framework set.
What is that? Is it this? What am I supposed to be looking at?
That is one of the framework things.
If you scroll down further,
that's Bellicor, there is a ton to come. So first up, there is a paint range coming. The paint range will be the prismatic paint line with Vallejo, which will contain 60 paints. You'll be able to get them individually, or you can get 2 30-bottle paint sets. So the full range will be available.
Wow, cool.
2 boxes.
Nice.
Most exist already. Although there are going to be 20 new paints specifically for this line, and it's a mixture of paints and effects. So there are things like slime effects, washes, rust effects.
Perfect for monsters and things.
Perfect for monsters. Another thing they said is they don't want to baffle new people, because the whole point of the line that they do, the Nozzlers line, is it's for new GMs, it's for new people who are just getting into painting and modeling, and having something that says Katachan's sweaty crotch. And you're going, what color is that? Why can you not just say dark green? Or they're not doing so. The effects paints will be called things like slime, because it's an effect. But scarlet red is, and this will surprise you, a red that is a scarlet in color.
So we're not going to get like Minsk and booze purple or something.
Exactly.
Or ashen hide.
So when people are coming to look for this, they're not going to have to worry about trying to work out what color an Oliphant, will be. They just go, I need a green. I need a green, I need a red, I need whatever. They're all named as per. So they're going to be coming out later on this year. But the big news was the framework set. So up until now, it's all been single piece, all single piece all the time. No word on these are hard or soft plastic. I suspect hard plastic. Somebody said they've seen the sprue, which amuses me, because all they've released so far is renders, because they haven't got into production. So whether or not they've seen a sprue is, But the idea is you will be able to get your hands on a box, which will either be a single miniature, a monster, or a character, or like a squad, so a unit of orcs or a unit of kobolds.
Like a town guard or something like that.
And within that, you'll have customization options, so you can make them look different. So if you've got a halfling bard, could be playing a lute, could be playing a flute, could be bringing the house down, like most bards do in D&D games, because they will critically fail and will explode all of the area. That is my personal favorite.
I'm curious about this one.
The witch with all of the lollipop and gingerbread men. It's just so creepy, so very creepy, especially when you look at the bottom of that lollipop staff above its head, which ends in its boom. You go into that cottage eating the gingerbread, you're not coming out of that cottage. But you can see there some of the changes. You can have a hand with an apple, a hand with a heart, just an open hand casting. The bags,
you get all the spell effects and everything there.
The spell effects, everything's there. So you can individualize your antagonists and your player characters as much as you can. You should pop on through, Lloyd. There are 13 of these. There's a ton to open.
Well, before that, there's one thing on that previous one.
Yes.
I'm very curious. Some of the render parts on there look as if they're going to be clear plastic.
Yes.
Okay, that was the one thing I was really just thinking about.
As far as we're aware, that will be the case. They will be clear plastic.
They do those with the Nolzers ones.
They do it with the Nolzers already.
Yeah.
So, but then that's why I'm wondering if they're going to. People are looking at it and going, it's called frameworks and they're multi-part. It will be hard plastic. There's no reason why they can't do these as a soft plastic or that Nolzer's plastic on the sprue and allow people the options.
Just make it quite plug and play in that respect.
Yeah, you're just doing it. Yeah. Some people have already been looking at these and going, well, look, they're all flush joints. You can magnetize these. Now, they did say they will include either pins or pins on the sprue. So if you want to pin things, you can, which may just mean a case of drilling things out if you're going to be a bit more complex. If you're going to be adding magnets, you're already being complex. But you can see the wealth of detail and changes you can make within them.
I know, it's really nice.
Yeah. Another fascinating thing they've said, which isn't featured in the article here, but if you've got a squad of orcs or a squad of kobolds, and you want to differentiate them on the table, if you're playing a skirmish game or if Wobetide you're GMing and using miniatures, instead of numbering the bases, so you're going Orc 1, Orc 2, Orc 3, and then keeping track of them that way, the box set sprues where you have squads or units will have something specific for the box that you can dress the base with. So it may be you'll have one arrow, a bunch of 2 arrows, a bunch of 3 arrows, or mushrooms or rocks or skulls.
Cool.
And so you can mark out which one is which and keep track of them so you know who's got what stats and who's got what wounds left without having to put something on the base that's going to wreck the sort of the flow of your game and going, well, this one says 152 on the back, so he's got 3 wounds left, whereas you can go, I'm going to lamp the one with 3 shrooms on the base upside the head and take the boot that he's wearing as a hat as a trophy, which is amazing. So this is the sort of the beginning of it. This is what they've shown, and they're hoping it will be in production for the end of the year, pandemic willing.
Well, yeah.
Because they'd already planned on having these out by now, and then everything went sideways. But one of the last things they dropped off was they're going to be doing what they're terming fat packs at the moment, which is the coloured render of, I want to say it's Balakor, but it's not Balakor, it's something similar. The fire demon at the start is going to be a sort of an idea behind it where they have these big end-of-level boss, sort of end of scenario, end of campaign bosses that you would expect to see, and they'll be there in a huge box of their own to really allow them to go the whole hog, multiple frames, multiple sprues to get the sheer massiveness of the model across without having to compromise.
Sounds like they're trying to catch up a little bit with what Steamforge have been doing.
Yeah.
Trying to address that kind of like encounter in a box kind of thing.
Yeah. So, the other thing is, even though these are coming out labeled on the Dungeons and Dragons Nolzers range, because that's a known range, a known brand. If people are looking for stuff, it's a good way to find it. It is aimed as a agnostic range, so it's not just D&D. You'll find things in there that'll be Pathfindery. You'll find things in there that'll just be generic fantasy tropes. So just because it's got the D&D branding on it, don't think they're going to be restricting themselves to just D&D styly things.
Next thing you know, we're going to get multi-part HeroClix miniatures, and they'll no longer be terrible.
Wow. I'm all for that. I've got a Cthulhu HeroClix from Gen Con from many years ago. Massive. And I can't wait to see more for the HorrorClix.
That'd be cool.
But yeah. Where to next, Benj?
So we're going to be finishing off a little bit of news with some historical again, as we've flitted between the different realms in this episode. But we're going to be looking at some new stuff from Gripping Beast that's been put together for those diving into playing games of Saga, Age of Hannibal. So they've put together 2 new starter warbands for you to use in Saga, all made out of the metal miniatures from their collections. So we have the Gallic forces and the Iberian forces. So they follow a similar setup between the 2 different sets. You get a mounted warlord for each. You then get that followed up with a set of mounted Hearthguard as well. And then you have 16 on-foot warriors with spears or whatever and shields to sort of bulk up the force as well. So as I say, these have been designed as 4-point warbands for you to use in Saga. A great starting point for those people that want to dive in and start playing the game. Maybe sort of taking things back towards that kind of more ancient time period. But yeah. Looking very cool, and I know there are already a bunch of people that were like, "Oh, this is neat. I could use these alongside X or Y and stuff." So it'll be good to see people mixing these in along things, along the lines from things from like Wargames Foundry and the stuff as well. So yeah.
I mean, you hear Hannibal, you're just thinking him marching on Rome.
Oh yeah. You could easily play out all of that and stuff, which would be very cool.
Yeah.
So
especially because you've got the Roman faction in Age of Hannibal as well to go up against Hannibal. It's nice seeing them doing these sort of compilations because if you are getting into a game or even into a new faction for a game, it's a nice, easy 4 points. It's all there, self-contained, and then you can just add to it once you've played a few games and go, really, I need more warriors, or really, I need more Hearthguard, or possibly some levy filth to throw away in front of the Romans because I don't want to die anymore. So you can play off your intro games at 4 points and then see what works best for you and for the battle board to actually progress and move further. And on today of all days, an auspicious day, where Studio Tomahawk did a little tease about a new battle board coming, which is it must be a new universe book because it's the Flames of Attar, which means it's going to be the Sassanid Persians.
Ooh.
So Peloponnesian War, please. I want my Spartans. Nice. I want my Spartans now. Yeah. But
what's quite nice about these as well is that obviously now this thing gives you a couple of different avenues for you to get into things like Saga. So you can either go, for example, so you can either go down the route of maybe picking up one of the plastic sets and using that. Obviously, that gives you a certain degree of options and allows you to play around a little bit more. Or if you just really like the feel of metal on the tabletop, you can go for these. And of course, they've got a little bit more detail baked into them as well because they're metal miniatures. So you can play around with those as well. And I mean, I will say, a lot of cavalry in those boxes. Whew.
They count as 2 models each when you pay them.
Yeah. Possibly even 3.
The front, the back, and the rider.
Because normally you don't paint the arse of your model too much, but
they are 50% arse.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was Sherlock Holmes that put it best. They're dangerous at both ends and tricky in the middle.
Exactly. Yeah.
Is this the Hannibal set here?
That's the Iberian. So that's your Celtic Spanish.
Yes.
And then that's just Gauls, so your Frenchies. But Age of Hannibal, I think they've already done. I want to say they've already done Carthaginian.
I believe they have already done some sets for it. Yeah.
If they haven't done Carthaginian already, it's probably not far off because they have a comprehensive line. Because I bought a ton of them a little while ago for reasons.
But yeah, they've been playing around with both that kind of like Saga side of things and also a little bit of Age of Magic as well. I know they've done a couple of new characters and stuff, which we'll probably get a look at in the news next week, I think. But
yeah, some lovely stuff there. So a whole wealth of news across from the very, very, very ancients, almost up to modern day, and with a sprinkling of fantasy over the top. I think that's probably enough news for now. Shall we move on and take a look at some 3D printing? So, Ben, what have you found for us this week for 3D printing? Is the shiznay?
So starting off with a little bit of an update. So obviously we know that Raging Heroes have been putting together their Heroes Infinite Patreon over the last couple of months and doing exceptionally good stuff. They've gone to the Norse pantheon, they've done Greeks, they've done Egyptians, they've done fantastic stuff on across all the realms of fantasy. And now they are back to kind of let us live out almost Harry Potter-esque dreams in a way, because they have brought together the Wizards Guild for August.
Well, you'll love this. Look at this. I'm going to try and show you it all.
There. Wizard, Harry.
If you open it in a new tab, you'll be able to see it all, Lloyd.
I do think I just heard a small squeak from across the ocean.
Click it again.
There we go.
There we go. It's all about knowing what to click. So yes,
that's a majestic. Before you get any further, that is a majestic set of eyebrows on Macarian the Venerable.
Yes. That's me when I'm in my 90s. If I make it that far, the beard will be that long, the tash will be glorious, and the eyebrows will just be going, "Hello."
So the theming, if you hadn't guessed about it already, is the wizards, mages, and everything else in between. So the idea behind this is that they've put together a section of characters, troops, monsters, and terrain, if you go for the Overlord tier pledge, that will get you access to a whole bunch of STL files you can print off at home for making basically an army of wizards. So if you wanted to go down the route of just shunning everything traditional when it came to building an army and just have heroes as wizards, troops as wizards, monster as wizard, constructs, then you can definitely do that with this. As you can see there by that amazing looking golem, which I think is just badass. You could also go down a different route with these. Maybe, for example, you've got a high-tier D&D wizard that has been brewing in the background for a while during your campaigns. Now you suddenly have a way to make that wizard a reality in an ostentatious way on the tabletop with these particular 3D printing files.
And do it wrong and play it with miniatures.
And do it wrong.
Does anybody else notice?
We've already looked at HeroHammer this week, and I have to say, putting a grey seer on a cockatrice was pretty much the default for 3rd to 5th edition Skaven armies. So you've got one there. It's a bit bigger than I remember, but sure.
Oh, but it's a 3D file. You can rescale that.
Oh, just
what were you going to say,
rat
Lloyd,
size
by the
your
way?
chicken.
I don't know. It looks weird. The big long cockatrice.
They're playing around with it.
I wasn't expecting to see long cockatrices.
Okay.
Normally they're kind of
a stubby cockatrice.
Yeah.
But anyway, they have a wide range of different things, as we're talking about, with in terms of like monsters and characters. But one of the nice things is you can see if you just go below, you've got the troops there. So obviously, what would you use to defend a school of wizards or a land full of wizards? Well, the apprentices, for one, chuck them in first.
Makes sense.
And then animate all the sort of magical constructs you've got laying down in the sort of the basement level of your massive wizard's castle, and unleash them on the tabletop as well to smash things to pieces.
We would also have accepted anybody who can't cast spells.
That is also
They
true.
will die
Send
in
the
the first
peasants in.
wave.
Yes.
Off you go, plebs.
Yeah, but
That's very Nagrand-esque for all you Warcraft fans out there. It's one step away from floating things in the sky of Nagrand. I'm all for that.
But obviously, as you can see there, they've obviously got a whole bunch of different bits and pieces there in terms of terrain and models and all kind of things. Then you can level things up, and you can get the Overlord tier pledge, which gives you more versions of the stuff that you got in the existing pledge. So instead of it just being one style of sort of like automaton, you can have a whole bunch of them, which allows you to make squads and units and stuff. You've got then lots of different styles of kind of like Apprentice Wizard, and those ones leaping out of the portals.
Doctor Strange,
which I think is very cool.
Yeah.
Get your sling rings out.
I like the familiars, but then Raging Heroes have always done weird and wacky little familiars like those horrible naked cats and little tiny hippos and stuff.
Oh, I love the mimics.
Apprentices mounted on mimics. I mean, sure, but at the same time, have the actual wizards put the apprentices on top like you would hold a carrot in front of a donkey to get the mimic to go forward?
Possibly.
I like to think of them as like goblins with squig riders.
Oh, yeah.
And they're not really controlling them.
And they might become lunch.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
That's how you cut down the quotas of students and get more involved in the enrollment process. But yes, lots and lots of fascinating miniatures within these, and then obviously big, huge centerpiece bits as well, which is fantastic.
And the castle.
And then of course the castle. So if
the castle.
If you're looking to put together a well, let's just say this one's probably not Ofsted approved either when it comes to Hogwarts and stuff, then you can add this into the mix and play your games around this. Maybe use that as a centerpiece for a big wizard's battle against the forces of darkness and some demons and that kind of thing.
It does look reasonably modular. I wonder, could I convert that?
You probably could do some conversions. What would you be converting it for, Justin?
Well, honestly, I'm thinking do like a nice medieval town out of that and just do like multiple components, depending on how many different ways I could combine stuff.
That would be cool. Yeah. It looks like a lot of like facades and frontages, so you can easily mess around with it.
Except though, just when it comes to the world of 3D printing, you're better off just going getting buildings that are a medieval town and just printing them.
This is a fair point, but I do like doing unique stuff with it instead of just going plug and play. Taking something like this and starting to do conversion work is absolutely fine to do, and I think you can get something rather kick-ass out of that.
Could do indeed.
So you sign up to what?
The Patreon.
Yep. So you sign up to the Patreon, and they will have different tiers for you to pledge for, and that means that every month you will either get the sort of like basic tier of stuff, which will be seen there, or you'll get the Overlord tier of things, which will give you even more bits and pieces for you to print off at home. As we have talked about in the past, the community around Raging Heroes, his Patreons, is very good. They are all very sort of involved with it and will help you out if you're just getting started with 3D printing on the tabletop. So if you're intrigued to give it a go and you like the very over-the-top nature of these wizards from the Wizards Guild, then I would definitely go and give these a shot. I will say, someone in our community
was the old set.
This is the Wizards. This is the
new
Wizards. So someone in our community got their hands on the Egyptian stuff from, I think it was last month, wasn't it, the Egyptians?
It was,
yeah. And has actually been painting them up in the style of the renders that we see from those guys, which is really cool. So if you could do something similar to that with the Wizards, that would also be neat.
Well, not only that, because I don't know how much you've delved into their project, because we've always looked at it and went, oh, wouldn't it be amazing if somebody did this? And they did it, and all of the gold is being done in gold leaf.
Yes, it is. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Which is just outrageous.
There is no kill like overkill.
It's certainly what I mean. They do look spectacular. That sort of three-toned affair, you really get the idea of what's going on. And if you can do that and then avoid having to really paint most of it, and do that,
much
definitely.
So. Yeah.
I did see one very interesting thing recently. I saw a resin bath printer that had like a 12x6 tub in it. You know, the actual bit that the resin goes into.
Right.
And I'm just wondering how big you could go, how much weight you could hold on there to go for something like take that golem and make it huge.
I have no idea.
Beef up the components. That'd be interesting.
I want to try it.
Yeah. So if you're interested in that, make sure you go and check out the Patreon from Raging Heroes. They've also obviously got their own web store where they make a whole bunch of physical miniatures, and some of the miniatures that we've been seeing as part of their Patreon have made it over to there as well. They recently did some updates to their Void Elves. So if you like the Drakari or the Dark Elves, make sure to go and check that out. Following on from that was one that Lloyd went, hey guys, I found this really nice 3D printing thing.
Yeah, it was a lot more like Sloth. It was more, hey you guys. He threw a Babe Ruth bar at his head. It didn't stop him.
So this...
And I'm expecting trains.
So no, it's there. It's in fact another one of Lloyd's loves, and that is Viking stuff or anything to do with the Dark Ages, Saga, for example. So this is Asgard Rising. Now they have both a Patreon and a My Mini Factory account, and their sort of big thing is creating stuff that could be used across the sort of realms of fantasy, but is very much sort of focused in, for the most part anyway, on kind of creating Norse-style creatures and monsters and warriors and heroes for you to use in your games. They have a fairly extensive collection. I believe we have talked about them. I think it was last year we looked at some of their sort of initial stuff that they brought out onto My Mini Factory, I think it was. But they have quite exceeded themselves since then.
Check this out.
It's almost as if Lloyd has looked at this already and has picked these out ahead of time.
It's both Vikings and Undead without bat wings. Wow. I wonder why you picked these.
Mounted Draugr.
Look at that.
I mean, I did see one thing on the homepage. There's a forest village there that looks rather cool.
So these guys don't just do sort of like your standard units and warbands and that kind of thing. They also stretch things into like the realms of terrain and big monsters and stuff. So hopefully we'll get a look at that in a second.
We'll get to that in a second.
All right.
Meanwhile,
he's got the Odin symbol on a shield. Yeah, that one exactly.
They're doing one thing that I love though, is that they're all carrying different bits of kit. It's not just like I have raised from a single army. No, raise everybody.
Well, it could be a single army, but, uniform is not uniform, with the exception of the Norwegian shield colour.
I suppose.
I mean, everyone's got that range they look at and go, bollocks, I need to buy a 3D printer. This might be mine.
I mean, if you need an assist, Lloyd, on picking out just the right 3D printer, I will help.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you were going to print the stuff for me.
We have 6 of them.
There are how many in the studio?
I mean, give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. Teach a man to 3D print, and his bank account will go to 0 in about a week.
They're very, I was going to say Skyrim. Is that it? Is it Skyrim? Is that a thing?
They do have that Skyrim feel there.
Yeah, because they've got horns, which they shouldn't have if they were just regular, Vikings.
So they've got a more fantasy feel. Side,
But you know what you do, Lloyd? You just take them off in Tinkercad or something.
I just snip them off.
Yeah, get Justin to take them off in Tinkercad.
If it'll take it, because some of these things are so high poly, they won't go in there without a dedicated program.
Because there's only a few of them have Viking horns.
Yeah.
So, it's
that's why God invented clippers.
Or just don't print the ones with Viking horns and print different heads and do head swap.
What? No.
I really like the Draugr who had like the hood and the sort of outstretched hand. Yeah, he was badass.
I am loving the mishmash of different equipment, though.
And that's just the Undead
That is just the undead. There's a lot of weird and wacky things in there as far as the monsters go as well.
The Old Maiden Warband, that's so
nice.
cool. Do you want more than one Lagatha? Here are all the Lagathas.
Way to go.
Was one Lagatha not enough?
I like the detailing is great. Could be. But the detailing on things like on the robes and tunics is just really, really nice. The knotwork and that sort of thing. So saves you having to paint.
What I quite like about these as well is that they kind of like, they've almost, well, obviously they've got that kind of more heroic look and feel to them, obviously sort of blending a little bit more towards the fantastical and the saga side of things. But I like that they match up a lot with kind of stuff we've seen from the likes of Mace, especially in the design style. So maybe you can go for some of the big centerpiece miniatures from Mace because they're a little bit more expensive in the resin, and then do some 3D printing on these to fill in all the kind of gaps in your kind of like Norse Force and that kind of thing on the tabletop. I think that'd be really, really cool. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the Berserkers are so good.
Very cool.
Leaping from tree to tree as they float down the mighty rivers of British Columbia.
Not enough weapons stuck in them, though. I always like seeing barbarians with like weapons in their bodies. That's, but I think that's was that Gripping Beast who did those, or was it Footsore who did the ones with like the swords in their bellies and stuff?
Yep, holding on to one end as if to say, "That's mine now. You've given it to me. You can't have it back, and I'm going to kill you."
Are those dwarves or are they just big burly men?
They're big burly men.
If you just print them.
A little
two-thirds the height.
I mean, if you unlock your aspect ratio, I'm sure you can squidge them to make them dwarfs.
I don't even know what that means, but it sounds great.
They even have like shape changes and stuff as well, which is neat. Oh my god!
Nice.
What a nice twist on trolls. That's awesome.
Is that a nice twist? I mean, there's a lot of teeth going on there.
Oh yeah.
Oh, like this.
It's covered in barnacles. Yeah. That's what you get when you live under a bridge.
And he's just casually stealing a barrel of fish.
Yeah. It reminds me a little bit of
the
style of trolls you would have got in like Troll Hunter and stuff, but like the creepy stuff that they didn't find.
They have bearmen.
Yeah, click on the shapeshifters. Oh, Wraithwolves.
Is this them?
Or that's a Wraithwolves.
The bear and boar was your shapeshifters. They're nice.
Very nice. There you go, right in the middle.
There you go.
So you've got a werewolf, a werebear, and a wereboar.
Oh, if you want to play Guardians on the tabletop, the best superhero movie of all time ever.
The Russian one.
With the werebear.
Best in Russian.
No, best. I'll stop.
I mean best to watch in Russian.
Oh, right. You don't like you don't like the dodgy English translation. Is that what you're after?
I hate dodgy dubs.
Oh no, I think it lends something to that film in particular.
I'll maybe give it another swing.
Rock Magneto in particular, but look at those. They're not right. Is that a horse's head he's wearing on his face?
What was the title for these?
It is
Faceless Hunters. Oh, very
you say faceless, but then they stick a big horse skull on their face.
Oh, what you could do?
Oh, it's Wicker Man.
This could be them when they head over to America. And they don't quite know who the Native Americans are, and so they imagine them as these strange creatures in the woods, and you can tie them to the Skraeling and stuff. That would be cool.
What is that Queen Spider HQ you were looking at?
Oh, we're gonna get to that.
Okay, I'm arachnophobic, and it's just like I need to see that up close, even though I really don't want to.
Even the weapon sets is cool.
Nice.
Shields are particularly nice.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. All that intricate carving and knotwork on them.
Well, Lloyd is sold.
I've been after sort of a fantasy-esque sort of set of Vikings, but I think I'm going to do the Undead one because I think I could squeeze the Undead one in more easily with all my other Vikings to fight off like an Undead army that comes at them.
Coming at you.
I know Warren was talking about doing like Undead Vikings.
Ruined ships as well.
Yeah, we'll really see that. We'll get to that. What did you want to see, Justin?
The spider.
Which
Ancient Spider Queen. That one. Or the Mobile HQ.
There you go.
Because with the massive howdah,
terrifying,
filled with goblins, not an Ragnarok, because I think they were taken out and beaten with a hammer.
Wow!
Just hit with the bug spray.
Very bristly legs.
It does look like it would paint up an absolute treat, and then you've got all the spider eggs below it.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
The first day you take that down to the gaming club, though, you put it down on the desk and someone swats it with a book.
And then you go 3D print another one.
Where do you see the ships? I have to take you to the ships. There's loads of cool stuff here.
Yeah, they have a substantial amount of terrain, so not just ruined, but also fully fledged, and towns and all sorts of watchtowers.
Please tell me this is a base modular set that I can just custom build the most monstrous longships.
Yes, let's say yes. I have no idea what any of that means, but yes, that is exactly what this is.
Well, I don't know. It's a set. You pretty much get the one you want. Yes,
I guess.
Let's just say yes.
It's a base modular set.
Man, those are impressive. I love all the detailing on the hull with the rivets and stuff. Where they've hammered the nails through and stuff. Oh.
Yeah, it's like the one they have in
even this. Look at
Norway.
the sail with the stitching in there.
Funny you should mention the sail. It's the most expensive part of a Viking ship.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Because the sail takes about 20 times longer to build than everything else.
Yeah, I mean, trees, they go for free.
Yeah.
Linen or whatever they made their sails out of requires somebody to actually do some weaving and stitching, and oh man, that's so much. I can't be bothered. Let's not raid anywhere.
And let's not forget, once you get where you're going to raid, you're going to turn that into a tent anyway.
No, you're not going to turn your sail into a tent. It's far too expensive.
No. I've spoke to reenactors. They say they would use it as a tent.
I think they're talking bollocks. It's because they didn't have to spend 20 weeks stitching it.
I don't know. There are some reenactors that are just that committed.
It's impressive stuff, though. Look at this.
Gorgeous work on the runes.
The thing that I quite like about when you see runes done like that is that they've like, you see a lot of times people will do that kind of stone texture, but it'll all be flat. Whereas obviously they've taken the time to make it so that a lot of the bricks and stones are higgledy-piggledy and stuff. Yeah, the relief to it.
There was a company that used to do resin cast ones, and they would actually build it from tiny little bricks and then cast the tiny little bricks. They did the massive Wizard's Tower.
Tabletop World.
Bingo.
Tabletop World. They would build their buildings brick by brick.
Yeah, and then cast that what they just built.
Yeah,
but that makes it all easier to paint.
Oh yeah, even just running the prints out on that looks like it'll be super easy.
You can dry brush the hell out of those, and they'll work really nice.
You've got the graves and the cairns.
Forest is a bit wacky. I don't know if I would do forest on 3D printing.
What, like trees?
Yep.
The Vikings on horseback.
I have printed some trees.
I don't know. These look pretty sweet.
Did they look hot garbage? Because I can't help but feel when you print that out, it will look like you've printed out. I mean, geez, there's some size of bank cones on those. That's one step away from a Hitler pineapple.
Even just trying to actually get that to run off a bed is going to be a nightmare.
It's a delightful idea
to run to
everything and then clearing that off. I don't know.
I think it would look too printed is my issue with it, whereas you can just get a tree and you're going to end up having either static grass or clump foliage to mask the fact that it's printed. Ponies are good.
Yay.
That is quite the chubby little horse.
To all those that said the Vikings didn't have cavalry, yes, they did.
Yeah. Who said they never had cavalry?
You always see it in the movies. It's like, they've done this properly. The Vikings didn't have any horses.
Oh, no, my Lord.
They didn't. They had ponies,
they did. They had
sure
horses. They loved horses. Putting them on a boat and taking enough of them across to make a difference. Different manner.
Yeah, but when you get there, just steal what you need.
Exactly. Steal the horses.
So they would have horses. Just they might not take them home. You have fought well with me, my steed. Go, fly free.
I really like those tombs and barrows. They're very cool. They feel like they're exist on actual historical ones. Especially, I think that one definitely is. Maybe not with all the carvings on it, but I think something similar to that.
I think we've got one of those in Ireland.
Oh, we've got more than one of those.
But specifically that shape.
That's so cool. That's what I want. I want to play a game now.
Being able to completely kit out your table from this as well, I think is just masterful.
Yeah.
For a company to consider, right, we're going to go down the 3D print line. Let's give them absolutely everything they could possibly want. Well done.
I don't think there's a game with this, but if there is, I'm definitely going to go and check it out.
Lloyd, we can make a game.
Because, I just play Saga.
Saga.
But because this is kind of like the sort of Viking range that I've been thinking about for a few years, going, oh, wouldn't this be cool? And in my mind, and then here it is. I love these. I love these undead skellies.
Well, you have access to adjusting a set with 3D printers, so you just got to buy the files
and the resin.
Oh, nice.
And the resin.
Really nice little
and the snacks for while I'm keeping an eye on the print.
I mean, there's
snacks are a legal form of currency with me.
Everything you could ever want.
Yeah.
Just sitting here waiting for you.
Yeah.
Well, by that he means everything Lloyd would ever want.
No, I can't think of anything that I would want that's not pretty much already here.
Even wreck chips. Goodness sake.
Oh, hang on. They have a quest board.
Where?
Down the bottom. There.
Oh, yeah. The Traveller's Pack.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
You know, whenever you said quest board, I immediately thought Hero Quest.
I don't know what we're talking about.
Like,
where?
He's talking about
second row on the left.
Yep.
Second up on the left.
So it's a notice board, so you can
There you
pin
go.
your Alcoholics Anonymous meetings
A quest
and
board.
stuff. You too.
Anytime
tell
I'm
people what's happening
playing
in the
Dragon
library.
Age, I see one of those. I'm running up to it, going, "I have things to do."
No.
Yeah, well, I could look at this all day. So
Yeah,
talk among yourselves.
I would like to see them do more versions of the trolls and stuff. They've done like sea river trolls. I want to see
more of the
them do,
monsters.
like, forest and mountain trolls.
So what? You're wanting Mountain Jotnar and stuff?
Yeah.
And like the others, they've got a Patreon as well. So patreon.com/Asgard Rising.
Nice.
Gee whiz.
And they've got 5 levels.
See all 5 levels, yeah.
Very cool.
Hits just keep on coming.
Oh, you can even be a merchant, so there'll be someone who 3D prints these on Etsy, probably.
I seen these.
Yeah,
I seen these on Etsy originally.
Yeah,
somewhere like that. They popped up, and then I went, "This must be part of something else that has the whole range." Then I went searching for Asgard Rising, and hey presto, all this wonderfulness just came up and slapped me in the face like a fish. Oh.
I do like the idea that
sea.
they're going, if you can produce this, go right ahead.
Yeah, it's cool.
Pay us our royalty every month. Well done, guys.
Certainly a way to do it. But for those of us who don't have 3D printers, we're going to take a look at a couple of Kickstarters that don't require you to do clever things. You just throw the money and they will provide you with a physical solid product.
Did Jerry just backhandedly call me clever?
No.
Did you win one of our prizes? Find out on our prize claim center over at OnTableTop.com. Here we list all our previous prizes and those who have won. If you see your username, fill out the form to claim your prize. All prizes must be claimed within 30 days.
We are starting off with a very impressive looking game. So this is Dragonbond, Lords of Vaala from Draco Studios. I had to say it in that voice because the title seemingly deserves it in my mind. So this is a 1 to 4 player game that was designed by the one and only Alessio Cavatore alongside some folks from Draco Studios, which is pretty cool.
I've heard of him.
Yes, he did some things.
He's king of My Little Pony.
He is.
Nothing else.
The
He
Lord
tried
of the
to kill me with his car.
Was that not Sam?
No, it was like Alessio. I was half into his car and he took off while I was still.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah, was that the first time we met him?
That's it. I had my front end in the car and he drove off with my back end still sticking out of the car.
Hold on a second. Alessio's tried to trip me up with a power cord before as well. Does he just want to try and kill people? I don't what.
I mean, on
He's
accident.
the Jeff
purpose.
Bezos of miniature wargaming. He just really wants to kill somebody.
But
anyway, Draco.
So Dragonbond Lords of Vaala. It's a 1 to 4 player game. It's designed to be asymmetrical. So each of the 4 different kind of like characters or monsters that you play as in the game have their own way of sort of working towards achieving victory. The cool thing about this as well is that you have 2 people in the game that will play as sort of generals that lead massive armies into battle and will command units on the tabletop. And on the other side of things, you have 2 people that play dragons. And the dragons are armies onto their own because they're dragons and dragons are awesome. And so they'll be playing very differently too. The whole point of the game is that you'll be trying to sort of dominate their fantasy world that they've created. And the first person to get to 10 victory points or domination points will be the winner. There's a twist in the tale on top of all of that as well, because, as the name would suggest, there is something called the Dragonbond. And this is where the cool stuff comes in, because if you're playing a dragon and your friend at the table is playing one of the generals, they can actually meet in the same space and they can decide to become dragon bonded. If they do, then they are now working cooperatively against the other players at the table, although they have made it a little bit harder because then you need 20 points in order to win the game, which is pretty cool. The actual game itself, as I say, has been designed by Alessio Cavatore and features artwork which comes from luminaries from across the realms. They have worked on the likes of Magic the Gathering and all sorts of role-playing games as well. So as you can imagine, the artwork for this is absolutely phenomenal.
Getting STLs.
When it comes to the actual campaign itself, you can buy the core game, which comes with a free add-on to that, which will allow you to put miniatures in place of the cardboard tokens, which is pretty neat. Although I prefer the cardboard tokens because I'm just more of a board gamer. Yeah. But they also have included a whole bunch of additional add-ons, which throw in new generals, new monsters, new dragons, and much more. Because, and this is the cool thing, Draco Studios, if it wasn't cool enough, Draco Studios are approaching their world of Dragonbond and Vaala in sort of like a very holistic way. So this is their board game, but they also have an entire miniatures war game that you can play, which is tied into all of the characters that you see here. So you use this as your entry point, and then you can go off and play with frickin' dragons on the tabletop all over the place, which is even cooler in my
It's got frickin' dragons.
I think Ben's just a little smidge excited for this one.
Well, I like dragons, man.
Yeah, there was an interesting one
like dragons.
where the Dragonbond isn't always mutual, and
yes, you have to roll
bargains.
To
If you're rolling, you can find yourself dragon bonded together, potentially even if you didn't want to. At which point, anything you do is also giving bonuses to the other person. So if you didn't go in cooperatively and just happen to end up being dragon bonded, then as you're gaining points, so is your opponent, and you could hand the game to them. But at the same time, if you don't play the game, then you're handing the game to them. So you've got to sort of finely balance it as well, which is a neat little touch. But there's some fantastic things.
Can you unbond?
Not that I've seen.
I don't think so, no.
I think once you're bonded, you're in for good. Which will
do you part?
Yeah, which will harden you in many respects. One of the first expansions, which I think is the Lords, increases the player count up to 6 as well. So the core game is 1 to 4, but you can get up to 6 people with the expansion. And the fact they're chucking in the miniature expansion for free with the core pledge, essentially it gives you all of those miniatures to replace the tokens for nothing.
The core pledge is really reasonably priced for a Kickstarter. Look at the price of the core. Look at the price of the core pledge. That's insane.
Yeah. So the stuff on the left is what the core pledge is. The stuff on the right is a $30 expansion that has the miniatures to replace. And those are quite nice miniatures. But I like they look like elves riding scorpions.
And are they saying the core pledge includes this and this then?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you're getting the £30 box of miniatures that I think they're done in advance for gratis, chucked in there to replace your tokens.
And you're getting the STL files as well, which is nice.
Yeah, but
So you're getting a hell of a game now if you back it. Much more so than you will if you buy it retail afterwards.
Yeah.
Especially, and the nice thing about that is that obviously, as I was saying, they're taking that kind of like well-rounded approach to it. You get that board game, which comes with those lovely miniatures for the dragons and the generals, and then you get all the troops that they use to fight battles with. So you can then go off and play the war game after you've played a bunch of games of this. Another one of the nice things about, obviously, we're saying the player count was 1 to 4 players, and it goes up with the expansions and stuff. They've actually put it in so that when you play games, the regardless of how many players you have, all of the entities will be there, but they're played through a sort of like an AI version of that character. So, for example, if one of the people isn't playing a general, well, you can use a sort of like an AI version of that, and that will continue to play. So someone's not losing out if they're the dragon, and then their friend is bonded up with the other general, and then they're like, oh, I've got no one to bond with now. So you're not going to be a lonely dragon, as it were. So
they are spectacularly looking miniatures as well.
Ooh, that's horrifying.
The blobby guy.
Oh yeah, the
not Jabba. He's being towed along in the artwork. He's being towed along on a palanquin by many people. In the miniature, he is not. Unfortunately, he's just sitting there dripping.
I don't know if anyone remembers Mr. Blobby. It looks like he found a new job.
Everybody's had to look for new things to do during the pandemic. What can I say?
He can't run his now defunct theme park, which is absolutely terrifying.
Killed too many people.
But as I was saying, one of the nice things about this as well is that the world is quite deep for this. So in actual included as part of their Kickstarter page, there is an entire primer to the world that you can download, which features all the artwork and stuff. So if you're kind of liking the look of this and you're like, I really like lore in my games, so it'd be nice to learn a little bit more about that. Then you can obviously dive in and give that a go as well, which is nice. So,
where's that? Is that on here somewhere?
Yeah, it's up near the top. So
is this something I can get access to?
You can get access to it. So if you scroll down, you'll find a thing that says like World Primer, and you can click on it. But we actually have a prototype copy of this in the studio. So
we do.
Hopefully, we'll get some stuff done with that in the future.
Here we go.
Not informed.
Yeah.
Oh, hello.
You were informed, and then it went to Jerry. So
that makes sense. Then.
So hopefully, we'll be doing some stuff in this in the future.
Artwork is
really
gorgeous.
Nice. So yeah, the artwork and the dragons is what sold me.
And I'm sure he loves the artwork of the dragons even more.
Oh God, yes.
I am trying to track down the studio in Mexico for an interview at the moment. So depending on how things pan out, we may be talking to somebody about what they're up to.
Yeah.
Cool. Look at that. We've a worthy life with your crazy Mesoamerican cat and alligator people.
Oh, there's a lot of pages to this as well.
Yeah, as I said, it's a proper big, deep game that they've been working on for a long, long time. So
it's the sort of thing that would get dumped out to people who are going to be writing or doing concept art or sketching and that sort of thing for them, going, here's
our world Bible.
Yeah. Now go and work within these constraints and remit and enjoy the Red Moon.
Cool.
So the Red Moon was actually what they worked on, I think it was last year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Where they brought together all of those dragons that we're seeing there, which is pretty cool. So yeah, very nice stuff.
It's a good way of doing it. I mean, you can do dragons till the cows come home and people will back those. And then once you've already done that, then you've got, the molds and the STLs and all the rest that you can then build a game around it without having to worry about getting such a high entry point to get everything developed. You do it piecemeal. And that is just terrifying and excellent. So the null, all for the null, that's very Lovecraftian. I'm all for that.
Looks like Jerry just found his ones. What's
coming out the back of that dog? We'll never know.
No, we don't.
No, I think it's just got a spare mouth on its hindquarters.
We don't.
Don't think that is a mouth.
Question: How is the Kickstarter doing?
It's very well. It's funded. Very well funded. Yeah.
Cool.
And has a grand total of 20 days left on its campaign from the time you're watching this. So keep an eye out for it.
Yeah, plenty of time.
So yes. Then we move on from a very lovely, very bespoke-looking fantasy world to a very nice and I guess you'd say forgotten corner, maybe, of Napoleonic warfare. So this
is
the
Napoleon?
Price. No. So this is the Price of Crowns from Piano Wargames. And this one's pretty neat because it kind of caught my attention sort of near the start of the week when I saw this popping up on a whole bunch of different Facebook groups. So the idea behind this campaign is that it's a set of metal or STL files, covered, that can be used for building up armies for the Napoleonic sort of period and a little bit after that as well. The focus of this is on the army of Württemberg. Yeah. Sorry.
The Kingdom of Württemberg, yeah.
Sorry, other people, but from Europe. But it's based around that, mainly because the sculptor went and explored the castle that was a point of a siege and a battle would be fought there. And then did a little bit of research about them and found out that they were a pretty kind of like sort of lost and forgotten part of history. And so I decided to do a little bit of research and build them up as you see here and turn them into an army. And this sort of feeds into the title of the campaign, which is the Price of Crowns, because it feeds into the price that was paid by the young men of these different kingdoms as they fought to become their own sort of principalities within Europe during the period. The focus here is on kind of giving you the core of this force to use during the time. So you've got your line infantry, you've then got grenadiers, you've got Jaegers in there as well. They've also worked on a number of different command figures, both unnamed and named. So you can use them sort of like fill in some sort of blanks in the history book, or maybe make your own stories and tell different tales of the armies of Württemberg. And yes, they've even included things like casualties too, because I love a couple of dead folk. It's nice to see that in there as well.
They're always good. They're always good because if you're playing Napoleonic battles, you tend to have, big blocks, 24, 36 men ranked up. So having a few people taking around and falling down is always good. Yeah. I like the fact they've gone for Württemberg simply because it's another French ally and one that you don't see often. Mostly when people think about the Germanic kingdoms and the like, they're fighting against Napoleon, not with him. So it's good to see the Württemberg infantry in there instead of just having to paint Frenchies all the time.
Yes,
you can add in some of the Polish and Württemberg, and the sculpts themselves are absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, they really are. I'd never heard of the guy before seeing this, but I assume he'd done stuff previously for other companies. I know he said he says at the start of the Kickstarter campaign that this was basically a lockdown project because they were like, I've got nothing else to do. I'll sculpt some cool miniatures, which I thought was really, really cool.
It's certainly a way to do it. But no, he's not a sculptor that I recognize by name. So I don't know if he's just been working for a company and it's a company that doesn't list their sculptors.
Publish the names.
Yeah. So that they are just coming out from them, or if this is a first time sort of affair for them.
If it is, then it's very, very good.
There is one thing I'm seeing here. Now, I'm not sure if it's what they're doing for all of them, but there were some pictures up the top where it looks as if the STL files are pre-done for their scaffolds. And if they have done that for all of them, that's going to make life so much easier for any new person coming into 3D printing to actually just plug them in and let them go.
They've also said that they are rescalable. So they've been designed so they'll work for, I think it was 15 through to 28.
They've gone bigger. So. If you go down, there's a picture that has them running from sort of 10, 15s all the way up to 54s.
There you go.
Wow.
Yeah. So
in which case then even better. If you're setting up an event table for Salute, there you go.
That's the joy with 3D printable files. As soon as it's in that slicer program, you can scale it up, down, whatever you want, so long as you know what the numbers are to actually bring it up or down properly.
Yeah. It was. I thought it was really nice to see someone sort of, again, as we talked about earlier, sort of diving into a sort of lesser known period of history and playing around with it and building basically an entire army. So if this then takes your fancy and you want to add this into your Napoleonic games, stick these guys in. You just basically back this project. You've got everything you'll ever need, basically. So maybe some more cavalry in the future.
Some guns. You'd hope they had some guns.
Big artillery pieces. That's guns.
Well, you can get them from that end of the week we looked at the start.
Oh yeah.
It's all full circle.
Yeah, you don't need to worry about that. Weirdly, one of our community members contacted me whenever it went live and went, this would be a good one. You could get the metal ones and then get somebody to print out the 3D files and then you could see that the metal are better. He didn't say that last bit, but that's how I imagine he wanted to finish that sentence. And it's fascinating because you don't often see that combo in historics.
Both,
Sometimes you'll see it in fantasy, but more often than not, it will be one or t'other. So having the sort of the dual paths there of STL and proper miniatures is nice.
I think someone was saying as well that they've been designed so that they're scaled with a lot of the stuff that already exists. So if you're picking up something like Perry's or something,
they are scaled specifically to Perry's, which is very clever because Perry's do not do Württemberg.
And suddenly now you've got a perfect addition to your French army.
It's a little gap in the range and you can drop straight in there because Perry's are a little different scale from some of the others.
They look bang on for scale with Perry.
Yeah. So
gorgeous.
Some cool stuff. You can play a big badass board game full of dragons, or you can make a lesser known army from the Napoleonic period and use that on the table instead.
Turnip 28.
Or Turnip 28. Don't do that, oh my God,
against dragons.
Yes.
Writes itself, Ben. How did you not work that one out?
Oh my God, root vegetable dragons. That would be amazing.
But
anyway,
while Ben mulls over that one, that's us for another week of gaming news. Hope you enjoyed the show, folks. And if you did, why not come over on Sunday morning and join our Cult of Games, where we'll be kicking back and having a more relaxed hobby look at our weeks with the XLBS show. If you're not already a member of the Cult of Games, you can sign up for a 30-day trial, which is completely free, gratis. We're not going to cost anything at all. But once you're in, you're never out. That's something important to remember. Otherwise, we will see you next week. Until then, have a great week of gaming.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.